Getting to order at 2:58. We're going to suspense the pledge and the prayer, and the machine is open. Roll call. All right, Kelly, yeah, step down. All right, we have 7 members in the chamber, but we have 2 out in the court. Administration committee that we want to have 1 out. So, first time, I'd like to go through the agenda. If we have any withdrawals, deferrals.
Mr. Burt?
Black, Councilman Black. We'll do like Councilman Black. Anybody another? Ms. Williams, you have any? Let's start on that. Mr. Hitchcomb, you have any?
Why you put defer? You sure?
J and I, Bird. Bird?
I'm going to defer 6F. That's it?
That's it?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to withdraw 6G. And I'm going to defer 7D. D.
Kevin
Roussel?
D.
Juno?
Yes, I'm going to defer the proclamation of B1.
D1 is deferred.
Yes.
Oh,
You know,
I was asking you, is that it?
that's it. I'm sorry.
Councilman Lepine?
I defer 6A3,
6A3.
and that's it.
I'll defer 6C as in Charlie, 6D as in David.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Charlie, C and D.
C and D. All right. Mr. Sullivan, do you have any deferrals?
You need to refer 6A2,
6A2 is deferred.
and I think that's it. And that's it. Yes, that's it, Mr. Chairman.
What was it, 6 what?
6A2.
6A2. B1 is deferred. 6A2 deferred. 6A3 deferred. 6C and D is deferred. 6F is deferred. G is withdrawn. I is deferred. And J is deferred. And 7D is deferred. Okay, this item A, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. For executive session.
A1, Rebecca Esperdram versus John J. Bankett et al., 25th JDC case number 59-447, Division B, Attorney William Jones, Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 2, Ashley Boudreau versus Plaquemines Parish Government, 25th JDC case number 60-684, Division A. Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 3, discussions regarding EMS services non-disclosure agreement, LRS 42:17A10, Councilmember Williams. Number 4, the Parish of Plaquemines versus ConocoPhillips et al., 25th JDC, number 60-982, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus HHE Energy Company et al., 25th JDC, number 60-983, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus Exchange Oil and Gas Corp. et al., 25th JDC, number 60-984, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus LLOG Exploration and Production et al., 25th JDC, number 60-985, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus Equitable Petroleum Corp. et al., 25th JDC, number 60-986, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus Linder Oil et al., Linder Oil Company et al., 25th JDC, number 60-988, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus Riverwood Production Company et al., 25th JDC, number 60-989, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus Hellas Oil and Gas Company et al., 25th JDC, number 60-990, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus Bepco LP et al., 25th JDC, number 60-991, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus North Coast Oil Company et al., 25th JDC, number 60-992, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus Cascades Operating Company et al., 25th JDC, number 60-993, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus Goodrich Petroleum Company et al., 25th JDC, number 60-994, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus Devon Energy Production Company et al., 25th JDC, number 60-995, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus Roselle Operating Company et al., 25th JDC, number 60-996, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus Palm Energy Offshore et al., 25th JDC, number 60-997, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus Great Southern Oil and Gas Company et al., 25th JDC, number 60-998, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus Hillcore Energy et al., 25th JDC, number 60-999, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus Apache Oil Corp. et al., 25th JDC, number 61-000, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus Campbell Energy Corp. et al., 25th JDC, number 61-001, Division B. The Parish of Plaquemines versus Total Petrochemical and Refining et al., 25th JDC, number 61-002, Division B. Attorneys Carmouche, Kosich, Parasol, Taylor, Koenig, Berglas, and Tanerski. Councilmember Roussel. Number 5, Midway Cattle Ranch LLC et al. Versus Plaquemines Parish Government, case number 217-CV-07468, United States District Court, Eastern District of Louisiana. Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 6, in regard oil spill by the oil rig Deepwater Horizon, MDL 2179, Section J, Judge Barbier, case number 11-CV-0916, BP Attorney discussion. Councilmember Juneau.
That's been offered by Mr. Roussel, second by Mr. Ashcombe and Ms. Williams, to move into executive session. Machine is open. Would you please cast your vote? Passes 9-0. It's 3:07. We adjourn to executive session. What about it? Huh? What's wrong with it? Thought you were flying away from there. We go to item B, proclamation. Item 2.
A proclamation declaring August 29, 2017 as Hurricane Katrina Commemorative Day in the Parish of Plaquemines. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Reverend Ellis. I'd like to offer, act by unanimous second. There are no objections. So be it. Machine is open.
Thank you, President Bartholomew. I really want to thank Marlene, she's not here, and your office, and I want to thank Kim and the Council Secretary office for this last minute. We having this commemoration on East Bank.
Let me read it first.
Okay.
A proclamation proclaiming August 29, 2017 as the 12-year commemoration of Hurricane Katrina Day in the Parish of Plaquemines. On August 29, 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit Plaquemines Parish. And whereas on Tuesday, August 29, 2017, several local churches will hold a commemorative event in remembering the 12th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina and celebrating how far our community has come since that devastating day. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Plaquemines Parish Council, represented by its duly authorized chairman, John L. Bartholomew, and by concurrence of the parish president, Amos Cormier, representing the Plaquemines Parish government, that it hereby declares August 29, 2017 as the 12-year commemoration of Hurricane Katrina Day in the Parish of Plaquemines.
Passes 9-0. Reverend Ellis.
Thank you. And so we have in the St. Thomas Catholic Church, Zion Travel, St. Joseph, Agape Fellowship. We did it for the 10th anniversary, and Mr. Cormier, your father was there. I think Benny was there and took some pictures last year or 2 years ago. So anyway, it's not about Katrina, it's about celebrating how far we have came. Thank you very much.
One C, status report by the parish president.
Good afternoon. I'm Parish President Amos Cormier, and this is the status report for 24th of August 2017. Two immediate things that just came in as regards we're getting reports that Tropical Storm Harvey now is expected to intensify, unfortunately, and it's being estimated to turn into a Category 3 to Category 4 hurricane. We will continue to monitor this situation. It's still, most of the models still have it headed towards Texas, but there are some models that have it stalling and then moving eastward in our direction. So please stay tuned and monitor that weather event. Also, we just got another update from the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality. They just advised our Director of Emergency Operations that the state DEQ will have monitors in the Dalcor area tomorrow. The discussion we had about the port, the state will have monitors there, and I think that will consist of evaluators and also individuals who will take, who are qualified to take samples. On Friday, August 18th, well, let me salute and compliment Coach Myers. On August 11th, there was a football camp that was held, and a wonderful number of our youth participated in it. My son had a wonderful time, as well as many other young children. And the camp, even though the field was a little wet, it was a lot of fun, and the children got to play and learn some of the techniques to be better football players. On August 16th, had a meeting with Aquametric. As many of you know, they have been doing a pilot program in the Belle Chase area, and they will be coming back with to summarize that program. On August 18th, I attended the Mississippi River Commission meeting in Houma, Louisiana. And on behalf of the parish, I had an opportunity to testify. The Mississippi River Commission is the commission that oversees the U.S. Corps of Engineers. And I'm pleased to announce that two of the civilian members of the Mississippi River Commission, both Commissioner James, promised his support for Plaquemines Parish's position regarding the mitigation bank and the use of our mitigation bank credits, the $7.5 million that we purchased. And he said he was going to, Commissioner James said he was going to look into it and argue on our behalf. Dr. Matei, who is also another civilian commissioner on the Mississippi River Commission, also expressed her support for our position. We had some synergy with Commissioner James because he was also not pleased with the Corps' 408 permit process. And we both agreed that the Corps has been somewhat less than consistent in their interpretations on the 408 area and also on mitigation credit area. On that issue, I will be taking our case up to Washington, D.C. and meeting with Major General Jackson, who is head of the Corps for this division. When we're talking about such big sums of money, like I said, there's an immediate over $7 million switch that would work against us, but also over long term, as Ms. Nicole Harris of the Corps stated, we're talking about, this is a huge project, just on levies, right-of-ways, and acquisitions. It's upwards of $30 million. So we need to, this is a good argument we have, and I'll continue to advance it on behalf of our parish. Now, on August 22nd, we had the state and region parish presidents meeting in Mandeville. One of the biggest topics for discussion there was the National Flood Insurance Program. And the National Flood Insurance Program terminates September 30th of this year. Congress is still debating what to do. Chairman Hinserling from Texas has a bill that is being pushed by Representative Duffy from Wisconsin. And it's a bad bill for Louisiana. It's a very bad bill for South Louisiana, coastal Louisiana. So that means it's a very bad bill for Plaquemines Parish. And Miss Caitlin from GNO Inc. Requested all parishes help on deck. Any lobbying efforts we have, we need to pull out all stops because the Hinserling bill makes a further distinction. First of all, it puts the grandfathering into question. It permits grandfathering, but then in, I believe, Section 504 or 503, it redefines it as there, if you made two claims on your flood insurance, you will no longer be grandfathered. So for Plaquemines Parish, this is, we're 100% against this. And then also, this bill, the Hinserling bill, makes a further distinction in distinguishing between inland and coastal zones. And so the game plan that with GNO Inc. is that we try to focus on the representatives from coastal areas on the East Coast, West Coast, and the Gulf Coast. And Caitlin expressed that if anyone knows any of the representatives in the Mobile or Pensacola area, if they would reach out to them to oppose this bill, because it is not in the best interest of the coast. There is a cap on this proposed bill, but the cap is $10,000 a year, which is going to price most people out of flood insurance. So there is an alternative bill that the entire Louisiana delegation is promoting. It was, I think, Representative Clay Higgins authored it, and it was co-authored by Congressman Mike Johnson. And the entire Louisiana delegation is behind it, but that's only 7 votes. And this is going up, Congress has 400 and some odd votes. So if any of you know any congressmen, please, in our community, please call them, contact them, write them, and tell them to oppose the Hensarling and Duffy bill. On August 23rd, yesterday, I want to thank Councilman Juneau and Chairman Bartholomew for attending the pre-council meeting that we had. I'd like, in the future, I'm willing to move the date of those pre-council meetings to whatever date that is most amenable to the council members. I'm willing to bring coffee, donuts, you name it, but I'd love to have more participation, and I think that could allow for our meetings to move more expeditiously. I want to thank Councilman Lapine for coming by the office and volunteering his help to help keep maintain some of the area over by the state school. We had a nice, pleasant visit, and thank Councilman Burke for a good phone conversation we had yesterday regarding the big issue is that's currently on the screen, which we're monitoring, is Tropical Storm Harvey. And with that, if I can have a PowerPoint presentation, we've got, it's time, and I'll frame this in a positive way. It's time to, I'm going to ask that we reinvest in our parish, that we reinvest in Plaquemines. Go to the next screen. We now have the pleasant surprise of we could call it a windfall, but the money that we have received from the compensatory damages settlement, and here's the plan that I have to reinvest in Plaquemines. I would like to take 20% of that money to diversify our economy, and also reestablish our economic development team. The 2017 budget cut the economic development team, and the 20% also, as I've spoken before, we can use that for business incentives. One thing that we see in Jefferson Parish are business parks, and I think the state school property would be a great place to do a business park and try to attract, and I'll speak more about that in one of the other slides, 20% for capital improvements and matching funds with the Coastal Master Plan, and we have Mr. Chris Bordelon here, and who will also talk some about that. 20% for operations, services, and maintenance, and this is where we'd go to address the issues of the manpower shortage. 20% for bond indebtedness, so that way we know we have these bills due, we'll put some money aside, and 20% in the emergency fund, so that, heaven forbid, in the event that we do get hit with a hurricane again, we'll have some money there as well. Next slide. as regarding diversifying our economy, I think one of the big attractions that we have, the sales point of Plaquemines Parish, is that we have a proximity to New Orleans, and we also have, I'm working in conjunction with Director Sanders in the port, a potential for a cargo, air cargo port coming in. And so that's going to make us a very attractive site to locate businesses. We also have the lowest local government ad valorem millage, and we have very low crime, and it's a safe community. So these are all sales points that we have, and I think by trying to focus in on the intellectual property sector or industries that would boom when more retail side or service the retail sector, it would be a nice counterweight to the oil and gas business, so that when oil and gas goes down, these other businesses go up and vice versa. Next slide, please. We need to take advantage of the CPRA and federal matching funds. You'll hear bankers talk about this and businessmen speak about this all the time, leveraging your capital, leveraging your cash. And I'll speak more about that after, but at this point I'll invite Mr. Chris Bordelon from USDA to come up and talk about some of the federal grant monies. And
I'm going to talk about, I'm going to pass out a handout, and I'm just going to kind of go through the handout to keep things orderly. I work for the USDA. We provide money to rural towns, parishes, and to do drinking water systems and sewer systems. The money comes in a form of loans and grants. So I'm going to kind of go through this handout. I'm going to skip down to the middle of the page in Plaquemine Parish, what is considered rural and what's eligible for it for us. And it's going to basically be everything except Belle Chase. I'm going to skip over to the second page. Currently, right now, it's a loan and grant program. It's both. It's a simple interest, 40-year loan with a fixed rate of 2.65 and 2.625. And I'm going to go down to grant funds. When the grant funds come down from Congress to the state level, it's a 75% loan, 25% grant is what we typically get. And then we look at each project on a case-by-case basis, and some projects get more, some projects get less, depending on what the user rates are at that time. I could go through a lengthy conversation, but I'm going to try to keep this short. Let's see. Y'all applied for a water loan through us, I don't know, 18 months or so ago. We've been processing it. There's requirements for that loan. And I'm going to skip down to the third page, where it says all projects have a preliminary engineering report and environmental report. That's done by the consultant hired by Plaquemine Parish. We haven't gotten that, so the loan has kind of sat at that point waiting on it. My understanding is that I should have it here in the next couple of weeks. That's what I've been told as of yesterday morning. And I want to answer questions more than I want to just go on and on. I mean, does anybody have any particular questions they want to ask?
Sweet.
No, you can go to Mr. Russo, that's fine. You was going to say something, Mr. Russo?
Yes, sir. We've been having this on the agenda for well over a year, waiting on a status of this project, and now you're telling me that it's being held up because we still haven't gotten a preliminary engineering report and an environmental report submitted to decide if we're eligible?
Well, you are eligible. I mean, there's several different phases. It's eligible, and then determining what the loan and grant would be, and that the entire project's eligible, what portion we could fund and what portion that we couldn't fund. So yes, it's been sitting there waiting on a PER, a preliminary engineering report. But we don't do that.
No, I understand. And believe me, after sitting on this agenda for a year, I've heard a lot of stories about where we were and where we weren't. I heard that one reason that we weren't moving forward because we had to answer some questions about where the 40% of the water that we make goes because we can't account for it. Would that be an accurate statement?
Part of that's, you don't have to account for it. What you have to basically state is if you have that much volume of loss, you're going to address it in the project, and this is how you're going to address it. So it's not a matter of going to do a study of can I account for all 40% of it. It's a matter of we estimate it's so much, and if it's a true problem and it's more than what's normal in your area, then you would address it during that project and include any work with that project.
Another issue that was brought up was that our rates. We raised our rates twice and suspended the third rate increase. Has that been a factor that would jeopardize any of this funding?
Well, what we do, part of the process, is we look at what similar systems are in your area. And if your rates are the same as similar systems, then we calculate what your rates would be, or what revenue is generated from those rates. Then that affects how much grant money you're going to get. Part of this handout, I have a write-up on that. It's page 2 and 3. We can walk through it if you want to, or I can let you read it and you can ask me questions. But it's a pretty simple calculation, basically. But in order for you to get grant money, your rates have to be similar to what other systems in your area are, or similar systems cost.
Well, it says there that Plaquemines Parish is eligible for the proposed project for a maximum of 45% grant.
Correct.
But we don't know what the number is, just a maximum 40%.
Right. You know what the maximum is.
And so we won't know anything until you get the preliminary engineering report, environmental report. And can we get grant without borrowing money?
No.
You have to borrow money to get a grant.
Yeah. Well, we basically finance a scope of work. Okay. You're going to come in and say, in this PER, this engineering report, we want to do this scope of work. This scope of work is going to cost so much money. Well, we're going to look at what y'all books are, what your audits, what your operation and maintenance budgets are, and figure out how much loan money you can borrow. What you can't afford to borrow, we give you grant money to finish that scope of work out.
So if our rates were less and we couldn't afford anything, we'd get a bigger grant?
But if your rates aren't what similar systems are, then we would say no. You have to. The user rates have to be at a minimum of what the neighboring systems charge their customers for you to get grant dollars.
And when you say that, who would we be competing with? New Orleans, Jefferson, St. Bernard, or similar populations?
Similar populations. We'd probably look at South St. Bernard and those areas.
And the geographical area, since we pump water about 100 miles, does that have any bearing on the fact that
We'd have to look at it. I mean, we would try to get as close to a similar system as yours as possible.
Well, thank you for answering those questions.
This is a new set of answers that I will keep in my mind and look forward to us getting that report finalized and submitted so we'll know where we really stand. We do have this item on the agenda, which I assume this will cover that item.
Any other questions?
Yes. Belshaz, what is the reason we can't get a grant?
The USDA program is set up to help rural areas, and the regulations is a population for a town of 10,000 or less.
So we in the same category as New Orleans or Jefferson Parish? That puts us in a city?
For the USDA, for our program. We administer, one of, hundreds of federal programs.
Just one more follow-up. Once you get the reports, what do you think the time frame will be to get a decision?
120 days. There's multiple phases. To tell you how much loan and grant money you'll get would probably be 120 days. For you to have access to that money, so the project you could actually start work, you're probably looking at 10 months to a year.
Thank you again.
Ms. Williams?
Yes, Mr. Bordelon, thank you for coming. I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. In reference to Mr. Roussel's question, I want to follow up a little bit. We did suspend the third rate increase on our water system. And maybe I missed it, but I didn't hear if you answered Mr. Roussel's question. Will that affect our application or our chances of obtaining the loan? We were way below surrounding areas or other areas. But that third rate increase, we did suspend. It did not go into effect.
Well, basically, what will happen is we're going to look at the scope of work. We're going to come up, or not us, but your engineer is going to come up with a cost estimate. We're going to base a loan and grant off of what that cost estimate is to do the total scope of work, engineering, any other fees that come along with it if you have to buy a property. And we'll calculate out what it would take for y'all to pay a loan for that amount. Then we'll look at your finances, and we're going to basically make the assumption that you're charging similar systems. And we'll say if Plaquemine Parish was charging X amount based on this many residential customers, this many commercial customers, industrial, you would generate so much revenue. Based on what your current operation and maintenance costs are, any debt that you have against that sewer system, your capital outlays that you have planned, we would include that as cost. We'd say you have so much money left to pay a loan. That portion would be loan money. The money above that would be grant dollars.
Okay. And if we are willing to appropriate funding to partially fund some of this, is that something that would better our chances of obtaining the loan or grant, or would it affect it in any kind of way?
Well, y'all are not going to have issue getting a loan if we can get the paperwork in.
Okay.
The question becomes is how much grant dollars can we get?
Right. That's
or can y'all get? The loan's not the issue. We have plenty of loan money out there. It comes down.
I'm not in favor of loans.
Right.
So we can't get grants according to you without getting a loan.
Right. I mean, our program's not set up
Designed for that. Yes, sir.
that way.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Bordelon, for coming and attending, and also along that same line. Yes.
This is my boss, Mac McCraney.
I hear the word grant a lot, and I want the council to understand that we are a lending agency for the federal government with the possibility of a grant. So that's the loan is a definite. Then also we have to take into account the availability of grant funds. There may be an issue where we don't, if Congress don't allow if they only allow X amount of dollars in grant funds, then grant could be out of the question. But if the money's there in the grant fund, then we'll definitely give you what we can.
How much money is in the grant fund right now?
Right now, we're at the end of the fiscal year. They're getting ready to do a new budget. It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
It's what Congress allocates for grant money. Congress is going to allocate each year X amount for loan money, X amount for grant money. So there's all.
What he's saying is it's an allotment that Congress gives. We don't know right now. The fiscal year, our fiscal year ends September 31st, and the new start October 1st. And right now, we have no idea what the budget will look like. So to give an answer on that would be definitely misleading. It could be a possibility they say no grant funds.
So it's an appropriation just like, say, the Corps gets when they incentivize us to go out and engage in LERD's activity, buying a land for land, easements, and right-of-ways, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
It is.
Thank you.
Councilman Roussel?
Just on a follow-up on the appropriation, does USDA itself have an appropriation for grants, or is it combined with CDBG and other grant programs?
Well, and we're part of the USDA, but our agency is rural development. And so there are different agencies under the umbrella of USDA. The program that you will benefit from is through the department of called rural development. So each section under there, they give allocations to each department. Rural development, we don't know what our budget will be. We don't know if we'll be under a continuing resolution come October 1st. We don't know if they'll say go home. But at the moment, right now, we're ending this fiscal year. Grant funds this project is not going to happen this year. So talking about grant funds this year is really irrelevant. Until we get the budget or until we know a little more detail after the end of the fiscal year, at the beginning of the fiscal year, those questions are hard to answer.
Would there be any prohibition, as Councilmember Russo referenced, is there any prohibition that we use some loans, some grant money from using as well possibly CDBG money?
No, there's not. You can mix our money, state money. We call it applicant contribution, local money. And the allocation that comes from Congress comes to this program. I mean, we have a certain program that we administer, and each year Congress allocates so much money for it. I will say in the past 15 years, the loan dollars have never really been an issue, having enough loan money. It's always having enough grant money. I mean, it's a 50-state program, so there's applications and projects that are funded in all of 50 states, the territories. So it's a huge program. The allocation is actually several $1 billion.
And Mr. Board, either of you, there is a similar state program, correct?
Yes.
And I know, pardon me for putting you on the spot. What is the state program called?
DHH, it's their drinking water program. If you look at the last page of the handout I gave you, there's the manager's contact number in it. And we partner with those folks. Anything we can't fund, like the Belle Chase area, can be funded through DHH, Department of Health, and a hospital's project, and it can be done as a single project. I mean, you can get money for a particular scope of work or project from several different sources.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the table, Mr. President?
Yeah, if y'all walk through this handout I gave y'all and just read through it, it's going to answer a lot of questions. I tried to keep the handout brief, and I tried to keep any presentation I was giving briefer.
Thank you.
And Thank you, Mr. Bordelon. Thank you, sir, both of you for attending. The purpose of this, and this is just one project that we have in the hopper. The other big opportunity that we have is in the same way that we received this money from this settlement fund, CPRA also received a large, there were 5 pots of money from the Deepwater Horizon Macondo case, billions of dollars. And the state has a matching program. And I bring that up because you can really get the most bang for our buck, for our cash, our capital. For example, an investment of $4 million with the state matching program would return would fund a $12 million project. They would actually put up $8 million for every 4 that we put up. So there's a multiplier effect, and then you can also merge in federal funding, as Mr. Bordelon just alluded to, but not just USDA rural development, but other federal agencies. And there are some projects where you can get 3 to 1. In 3 to 1, an investment of $4 million of the parish's cash would render $16 million. And so this is, again, the business model that many banks use. This is the business model that many corporations use. And I think the parish can get the most bang for our buck, the most use out of our capital if we participate in some of these matching programs. And so that's why I ask you that we set aside 4% for these types of opportunities. For example, in the water delivery project, that's estimate. I've seen an estimate of about $20 million. You're talking about 45% of that. You're talking about $9 million in grant money. So we talk when we talk about getting plans into the state master plan. If we have several projects in the state master plan where we can leverage our cash immediately and provide ourselves, take advantage of this to provide ourselves with more protection from storms and restoration of wetlands. We go to the next slide. Operations, services, and maintenance. And the reason why I ask for 20% in this is because as we all know, at the end of 2016, this council was faced with some very dire situations. A cash shortage. We were going to run out of cash in August, and the choice of generating funds was put aside. And like I said, in this plan, that can actually benefit us because it would actually attract businesses. The fact that we have the cheapest ad valorem local government tax in the entire state really makes us it's a great sales point, not just for residential sales in any part of the parish, but also for attracting business. And it's but the manpower shortages are critical, and these are things that, for example, we're going to have. If we go to the next slide, Mr. Bradford Brooks, if you come up to the mic, we have equipment, millions of dollars of equipment that Mr. Bradford's going to speak about that we can't use because we simply don't have the manpower. And when it comes to maintenance, this equipment will actually save the taxpayers money if we have the manpower to run this equipment. But I'll let, there's several pictures, and I'll let Mr. Bradford Brooks go through them.
My name is Bradford Brooks, Superintendent of Public Right-of-Way Maintenance. The equipment he's referencing, we bought in '09. It was asphalt, a crack sealer, and a pothole patcher. We paid roughly $130,000 for that equipment. It's been basically parked for about 2 years. We hadn't been using it. We hadn't had the manpower to operate it. So having a discussion with my director, I'm here to ask for if the council would consider giving me the manpower which to operate those 3 pieces of equipment.
Would go to the next slide.
That's the slide you're looking at right there. That's the crack sealer. Basically, the crack sealer goes in on the streets, cement streets, seal up any large cracks. As you well know, it keeps the water from getting inside of and underneath the concrete, causing it to soften and lift up. It'll save us money in the long run by us using that piece of equipment. The next slide would be the pothole patcher. It shoots out a mixture of tar and limestone. We used it a lot in '09 to repair a lot of the parish streets. So that's another piece of equipment that we utilize in the prom department. It'll roughly take me 6 tractor drivers or public groundskeepers to run that equipment. And that's what I'm here to ask for.
Ms. Williams?
This isn't directed at you, Mr. Brooks. Well, I guess it could be. Would a heavy equipment operator be the people to operate this equipment? Or could they possibly?
They could, but that equipment was actually bought for the prom department to operate, and we purchased it new, and it was assigned to the prom department underneath Mr. Nungesser's administration,
Okay.
and we ran it ever since.
And when's the last time y'all ran that?
It's been over 2 years since
Okay.
we ran that piece of equipment.
Okay.
Mr. H-Cone,
Wait.
Councilman H-Cone?
I'm not done.
Oh. I thought you said, okay, thank you.
With that being said, in reference to heavy equipment, I know that recently a heavy equipment operator was transferred into the duties of a land superintendent. I think Mr. Dubois or Mr. Tony.
No, Troy Douglas. And
Douglas, yes, yes.
And thank you for that question. I was going to address it later, Councilman Williams. When the council voted for the $13 million for the LERDs, and even before then, to try to, the landman was unbudgeted. And so Mr. Troy Douglas was helping out. Again, we're trying to comply with the cross-training and using people.
Right.
So that's why...
So he's full-time land superintendent, he's no more heavy equipment? Because does the land superintendent take, like, every day you have something to do, or can he operate heavy equipment
I know.
and handle the land superintendent? That's my question, because I know, you're saying we're short on manpower and heavy equipment and things of that nature, but we're taking a heavy equipment operator and we're putting him to do other duties.
Well, for example, during Tropical Storm Cindy, Mr. Troy Douglas did a wonderful job. We were touring levees. He helped oversee one of the contractors moving some of the dirt. So there's some overlap. We're just trying to do, with the manpower shortage that we have, we're just trying to do the best we can. And he's a hard worker.
Yeah, so is he currently doing dual roles, is my question, or is he strictly doing the land superintendent's position?
He's doing, it's sort of a Band-Aid approach. He's doing the best he can, doing land, helping out, that's why I'm requesting 20%, just a 20% investment of this cash, instead of letting it sit around. I mean, especially at a time like this where our economy is down, investing in our parish, investing in our people, and investing in our communities.
Well, I do know we are in need of roads being repaired in my district mainly. Since I took office in 2015, prior to layoffs, I've sent them requests about roads being repaired, and very few have been done. So I just wanted to see if Mr. Troy was still playing dual roles or if he was strictly land, because I know he's still being paid as a heavy equipment operator.
I can get the details on that to you, but I do know that because when I got the question this morning from you,
Yes.
I looked it up. That position was unbudgeted, so the land man
Okay,
position.
so he's
Yeah, but
taking
that's
on
why
that task.
I'm asking, and I questioned Mr. Brooks, and he told me that the crew, there was a 6-man crew, correct, Mr. Brooks?
That's correct.
And what happened to the crew?
Well, a lot of them left through nutrition of the department, and they just never got rehired, and in a position got
Were any of those
unbudgeted.
laid off, or they just left on their own, or?
Well, some of them got left on their own, some of them got fired, some of them retired, and then
No layoffs, though.
Not layoffs.
Thank you.
So the position actually just got unbudgeted. Right.
And these are the types of machinery that, it's again, like the question with overtime. If we could get those 6 positions filled, we could run this equipment, one, which the use of the equipment would help prolong its life, but 2, and more importantly, it would save us money in the long term, because if you fix a problem, if you get that crack filler out there when that cement first cracks on the street, and you fill that crack, the lifetime of that cement's going to extend a lot longer. Is where if you don't get that crack filler out there, as Mr. Brooks said, that water starts getting up in there, the situation, it gets worse, and then you winding up with major repairs. So, thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Brooks, the personnel needed to operate that equipment on the photos, what qualifications are needed?
Actually, as I said, stated before, we actually had public groundskeepers with a trained foreman. We had 3 of us that got trained on that equipment from the manufacturer. And then basically we went out, I had a foreman that went out and he ran that equipment with the 5 other public groundskeepers. So basically just the
So a
manufacturer.
groundskeeper pretty much run the lawnmower,
Right.
weed whacker, tractor?
He ran a weed whacker and a zero turn. That's what our public groundskeepers at that time was doing. And then as they fell off out of the budget, we started using tractor drivers to go out a couple times a week and use the equipment. It used to be an everyday operation, but it fell back to a couple of days a week, and then as we lost more employees, it just ended up being parked. So the qualification, I was trained on it. I'm one of the last guys in the department that was trained on that piece of equipment to run it. So I guess through my direct supervision, I could train a couple other employees on how to operate it.
Okay. And one other question in relation to manpower, and I know it's not your department, but heavy equipment. Is all the heavy equipment personnel qualified to do what their scope of work is? Yeah.
And I never got answered for.
Serious.
It's my appreciation that what 76 people qualified.
You don't have the 7, 6, 8, 10, 15, 20. Are they qualified to do what they're supposed to do?
Yes. Yeah, there's 6.
6.
There are 6 qualified people running heavy equipment for the entire parish of Plaquemines right now.
Okay.
And there are the qualifications for their production.
Yes. That's all we have.
No, I know, but I know you.
It's not the number. Like I said, we can have 2, 5,
Yeah.
or 20.
But on,
Question on the
yeah, I'll say something about on this, on what, kind of missed the point on this too. Those 6 people that run those machines there work all over. They cut grass, they do whatever's done. That's done when the problem come by, those people will do that work.
Councilman Lepine and Ms. Aldred and Mr. Black.
Mr. Brooks, I got a question, I guess. On the off time, on the downtime, winter time, could we be operating this when some of our grass cutters are not cutting grass?
That's our intention, been over for the last couple of years, but it seems like we've been cutting grass longer and longer into the season because we hadn't been getting a real lot of cold weather. So normally we would do that, but we just hadn't been able to do it over the last couple of years. Doing those events, rain events, we can't operate it. We usually make sandbags, service our equipment. So hopefully if we get a hard winter where they slow the grass down, we should be able to start cranking back up that operation.
Have we been doing this in the wintertime or not really?
No, not really. We hadn't ran that equipment in 2 years, over 2 years.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right.
Yes, my question was going to be the same as Mr. Lapine. I was wondering about alternating folks to do whatever is necessary to get the job done. But I'm sitting here in awe to know that we have those type of equipment that you just presented there on the screen, and my district is in shambles. Almost every street since Katrina have potholes front. They're dodging potholes to get to their house. And we have this type of equipment just sitting. I mean, this is shameful. I don't know what the answer is to what's going on, but something has to change. I mean, we can't continue down this path. And I'm not going to get in between, as I keep saying, and I don't want to sound like a parakeet. I don't want to get in between the administration and whomever. I don't want to get in between it. But I still say we can't continue in this path. We just can't continue. I can use one of those equipments and at least bring my district up to standards as far as appearance and a better livelihood for folks that have to get to and from their home. This is almost shameful. I don't know what was the solution, but I think that an olive branch needs to be established. I don't know who's going to extend it and who's going to accept it, but I think that at this point we have to consider the constituency. This madness has to stop. It's just got to stop. We can't continue along this path. This is shameful. Thank you.
Councilman Black.
Hey, Mr. Brooks, thank you for coming before the council. Couple questions for you. So you are a superintendent, correct?
That's correct.
Over prom?
Yes, sir.
All right. Heavy equipment really isn't a department. Is that right? Is it?
That's not my department, no.
Okay, so it's within flood control?
It's flood control and heavy equipment. That's a separate entity from mine.
Okay. You know, I've spoke about consolidation a number of times, and I don't think there's a superintendent there right now. Is that correct?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay, so my question is, and I brought this up to the administration before, is it a possibility, because it seems like prom and heavy equipment work hand in hand, and a lot of those duties are, you know, a lot of heavy equipment operators can help you out and provide services and operate your machinery. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I would say that's a fair statement.
Is it a possibility that those departments, the Department the folks within heavy equipment, be consolidated with prom to form a consolidated department? That way it gives you more manpower. They're pretty much doing, I wouldn't say the same thing, but similar things. And it would give you more manpower to be, we wouldn't have to, number one, we wouldn't have to go hire another superintendent because Mr. Brooks would be able to be the superintendent of all of those individuals. It would give him more manpower. And
I thank you for that question, Councilman Black, and I think the next two slides are going to answer that. If you would, go to the next slide, please. This was the Plaquemines Parish Recreation Department in 2009. You can count them up. There's 33 employees. If you would, go to the next slide. Now, in 2017, we have 13. We don't have a recreation department. We have an EAtion department. This is the problem, and the reason why the mantra of reorganization is that manpower numbers, and I've given these numbers. In the administration before my father, there were over 730 some odd employees. We're down to 417, and when you back out the DAs, you can't do something with no one. And we had this discussion at the last council meeting in Belchase where I don't think Mr. Brooks was present, but POM is suffering, because they don't have the manpower they had before to cut the grass. We put up, last council meeting, 12 unbudgeted positions. None of these, I'm not asking for new positions. I'm simply begging and pleading and offering an olive branch. I'll offer whatever. I'll bring coffee, I'll bring donuts, whatever you want. But you can't do, if the Nungesser administration needed all these men, then I'm sure, Councilman Black, you'd agree with me that he wasn't doing anything wrong by needing all those men. So it's a question of, are we going to invest in our parish or not? And look, some people, look, there are legitimate policy issues. Some people think that we just should spend less on government and not have the same services. And that's a legitimate political position to take. And I can't, it's just that's a policy difference. But what we can't hide is the fact that we have a manpower crisis, a manpower shortage. I had a constituent call up who was very concerned today about her outfall ditch because the grass has grown up. We've got this tropical storm, Harvey, that's going to bring rain our way. Please, God, keep praying that it doesn't, fully hit us. But she's worried about the water not being able to drain and get back to the back canal. And so these are things that, and I'm sure Mr. Brooks could tell you, that the manpower losses they directly affect services. Now, again, like I said, it's a legitimate position. I don't share the position that we should have, Plaquemines Parish government should just be downsized and we should not provide the services. But that is the state of affairs in which we find ourselves. It's not that Mr. Brooks isn't working hard. As he told you, the 6 men who ran that equipment are no longer here. And so it's my position, and I recommend, and I would ask, that we reinvest in ourselves. This is our parish. We all live here. So it's not like we're taking this money and sending it to Jefferson. We're reinvesting in our parish. We're providing services for our people and for ourselves.
If I could respond, Mr. Chairman. So there are a couple points, Mr. President, that I do agree with you on, and some that I disagree. The first one that I do disagree on is a comparison with the Nungesser administration and the current administration. From my knowledge, those 8 years, that government operated on roughly $100 a barrel oil revenue. They could afford to have that number of manpower and have a surplus of manpower. Unfortunately for us, when we came into office in 2015, we had to reduce that budget to around $30-something a barrel. So we reduced our revenue stream by 2/3 reduction. It was a crisis, and we called it a crisis when it happened. We're not much better off than we were in 2015. We based it on 50 or 48.75, and we're still not seeing those revenues. So you're asking us to replenish that manpower to those levels under the former administration, but with 60% less of the revenue. Now, we do disagree on the BP funds and that whether those funds should be used for recurring expenses. I don't agree that they should be used for recurring expenses. But I do see some common ground, and that's why I ask about consolidation and cross-training and things like that, because I think we have an opportunity now that we're at rock bottom or near rock bottom to devise a plan to do some consolidation, to reorganize some departments, then come back to the council and say, we've merged departments, we've streamlined some of the ways that we operate, we've made it more effective and efficient, but we could use more manpower in certain areas. So to come back to the council and ask for manpower to be replenished to the 2009 numbers without the revenue, it just can't happen. because the money's just not there. So what I've been asking as a first step is come up with a consolidation plan, a reorganization plan to get the government to operate more efficiently with less manpower. And at that point, when we see the gaps that we are short still on manpower, I think you'd have the majority of the council support you and say, you did your job to make government more efficient. You're still short in certain areas. We would probably replenish those positions. But we can't, I can't, at least, I'll speak for myself, I can't just take a broad brush and replenish manpower to the 2009 numbers, because 2009 numbers are based on $100 a barrel. 2017 numbers, if you do a comparison, are based on less than $50 a barrel. So the funds are just not there. So that's what I'm asking you to do, is if you can come up with a plan, and then you can come back to the council and say, we've consolidated folks like heavy equipment and put them under prom where we have a superintendent, because nobody's a superintendent now in that heavy equipment department. That's a position that can probably be eliminated. So that's one person who's just a supervisor, a superintendent that I'm sure Mr. Brooks doesn't want a lot more personnel to supervise, but you know, if you consolidate it, that's a $70,000 a year job or so. So that pays for maybe eliminating that superintendent job. You consolidate, maybe that gives Mr. Brooks 3 more operators.
Councilman Black, I appreciate your position, but the problem with that position is that, in effect, you're also stating that the Rousseau administration had a flaw in the way it was set up. I want to be held accountable. There's a reason why heavy equipment was a department and prom was a department. And merging departments does not solve the problem. They each have individual functions and services. And I think, I mean no disparage to the prior administration. I mean it as a compliment. I think they properly had departments set up. And I think there was a rational reason why they set up heavy equipment, which does work for using heavy equipment, obviously, and prom, which main focus is public right-of-ways and maintenance and keeping levies cut. And I would be, and here's the problem, and I know you want to hold me accountable as parish president, and I want you to, but if we merge the departments, then you can't compare apples to oranges. So I want to be held accountable, but I want to be held accountable by the standards that previous parish presidents had, because if we just start playing paper games, then you can't hold me accountable. And so I'm striving for accountability. And like I said, as that picture reveals there, it's clear. I think that an investment in our, well, let me back up. The first part of the plan was a 20% investment in diversifying our economy, because you're correct. We're too heavily, the implicit statement you had is that we're too heavily dependent on oil and gas. Well, now's the time to invest in our parish, to diversify our economy, to try to attract, I mean, I'm a businessman. I think we need an economic development department. I think, and Councilman Burt is going to introduce said legislation today, I believe. And I thank him for it, because we should have an economic development department. Every parish with any clout does have one. So the plan I have and the leadership I want to bring to the table is that now's the time to invest to diversify. We've got this cash. And we don't need to sit on it. We need to diversify now so that the next time when oil prices go up again, we will have other economies of scale serving our parish and benefiting us. And like I said, it's the picture is pretty clear. The manpower that manpower provides services. Cuts in manpower results in cuts in services, and that's something that's math. It's It's causation that can be proved. But I would encourage you, please, at the very least, though, I think we could maybe find common ground on the issues of reestablishing our economic development department and creating some tax incentives or some business incentives to try to diversify our economy.
And I agree with you on that, and I'll get to that in 1 second. Let me go back to the departments, because historically, and you bring up former administrations, there's a lot of debate on why those departments were created many, many years ago. And, you know, we could talk about whether it was a commission council power struggle between each member, but that goes back decades and decades. You know, it's 2017. I think here's an opportunity. You and I spoke about that before. This, I think, is a great opportunity for this whole government to reorganize and come into a new age and make things more technology-based and technology-driven. So I'll leave that at that. So we agree to disagree, I guess. The economic development issue, I brought it up many council meetings ago after we had the youth Blackmans or the leadership Blackmans discussion when Michael Powell was here, the PIO, and I had mentioned, some folks thought I had a conspiracy going on, I guess, whatever, but it was a discussion on merging those two positions and paying him a little bit more, but to lead the economic development department, because we do have a council-appointed committee that can assist him with 9 members that the council appoints, and merge that with the PIO. They do a lot of the same work. So hopefully Mr. Burt's legislation reflects that. That's the direction I would like to see it go. I'm not sure if it does. I haven't seen Mr. Burt's legislation yet, but.
And I thank you for that commentary, Councilman Black. Where we disagree is, I think that prior administrations did have things set up pretty well and intentionally. I don't think we throw away, dump our tradition, dump our history. I think that there was a reason for things being set up the way they were. Now, if we go to a point to where we have tractors that can be driven with satellites, those types of advances in technology, then I agree with you. But until and unless we get to that point, then the manpower needs are real, and without having the manpower, you're not going to have, the services are going to suffer.
Oh, okay.
Councilman Black, finish. Mr. Rousseau, then Ms. Aldridge.
Yes. I don't know if you completed your presentation, but from looking at your presentation, I can agree with 80% of it. 20% of it that I can't. You know what that position is. But I think that it's time to move on to 2017 and 2018. You know, I look back and I keep hearing previous administrations, and my name keeps being brought up. Prior to my administration, the government in Mr. Petrovich's administration had 1,200 employees. We laid off 600 employees because of the price of oil. And we didn't go back to 1,200. We made do with what we had. And that's why we've been in the 600 and 700 range for all of these years. But at no time did I ever hear anybody look in the rearview mirror and say, I want to be like them. We always looked forward and said, look, this is what we got, this is what we got to work with, and this is what we're going to do. And I wish that we could develop that attitude and that mentality here, because the reality of the situation is we are facing right now about a $6 million hole in the 2017 budget. When we have to balance the budget, we're going to have to use BP money to cover the shortfall in 2017. That's a fact came from the finance department. Looking forward to keep digging the hole deeper by adding more people that we would like to add, but we can't afford, is not going to help us. So when you present the budget to us by November the 1st, it's going to be interesting to see how you balance that budget with the revenues that are going to be projected without getting into any of the other funds. Because your responsibility is to give us a balanced budget by the revenue that's projected. Now, I don't know if you've realized this yet, but it's going to hit you soon when you have to start sitting down with the department heads, the finance department, of how we're going to squeeze this budget to give them a balanced budget. So, and if you shake your head about not knowing about the $6 million shortfall, that was the projection that we had from the finance department. That was given to us as a reduction in revenues from oil and gas. So, you know, without belaboring the point, I agree with 80% of your proposal. I have something on the agenda today on item H, discussion regarding resolution number 16-243, which fits right into your presentation because I asked for this over a year ago for us to move in the department of developing the projects on F. Edward A. Boulevard to be able to put them in commerce, to be able to bring revenue to the government and make a business park or something like that out of it. So it's not like we haven't been trying to do these things, but I would hope that your administration, and I'm going to cover it now under H, moves in that direction and tries to do the inventory of the properties and develop a plan to put them into commerce. So, you know, it's getting late in the day, but I do support 80% of your plan. I don't know what more I could say about that. And as far as the restore funds, you know, mentioned that. I'd like to know what project we submitted because the competition is on right now with us contributing our percentage to the state's percentage, and it's a competition. So do we have some restore projects that are being evaluated right now to be able to win those projects?
If I may, Councilman Roussel, that's why I made this presentation, and that's why I have these open pre-council meetings, so as to conserve time, so that instead of doing this before the cameras, we have an opportunity to clarify these things ahead of time. But if I may ask briefly, with which parts can I count on your support on this plan, my plan?
80% of it, excluding the BP funding for recurring expenses.
Well, and that's the whole, isn't that the nutshell, Councilman Roussel, because it's, just as you stated, it was partly, in part, your job to generate funds and generate revenue. The parish president does not generate the funds. Now, I did go out and we did settle with your collaboration the BP case, the record high settlement for the parish. So that did generate funds, but it's the council's job to generate the funds and to provide for the expenditures. So it's those are questions that if you're against, if you're squirreling away the BP money, then you don't support any of my plan to reinvest in our parish. That's the purpose. What are we going to do? Squirrel away the cash and not reinvest in our parish? Let our parish wither on the vine? I mean, the problems are real, and you certainly submit numerous petitions to heavy equipment. And like I said, I there again, and that's why I want the accountability, and I showed the numbers a couple council meetings ago. What was it, 2004? 40 men in heavy equipment. 2011, 16. It's, you know, and sure, we can say that, the question is, are we going to invest in Plaquemines Parish? Are we going to invest in our home? Or are we just going to squirrel the money away for another, for what? To wait for what? And I'm saying that we can leverage that money and we can diversify our economy if we do something now. But we have to act now. And I can't do it without your help. And that's why I'm requesting your help.
I understand, you know, but until you decide to move on and look forward, you're not going to see the reality.
And I am, Councilman Russo. The whole plan to diversify the economy is very forward-looking. To create a pool, to use some of that money, to have tax incentives and business incentives, to reestablish the economic development team, that's very forward-looking. So that's looking to get us away so that we're not so heavily dependent upon oil and gas.
Let me ask you this. When you say make business incentives, could you define what you're talking about a little bit clearer to me as far as what type of incentive are you trying to give someone?
Any type of incentive. Well, you voted in favor of the port buying up land for Venture Global. So maybe acquiring land and trying to lease it out and gives that type of business incentives.
Mr. Cormier.
That's the type of incentive program I'm looking for.
Mr. Cormier, you know, you are throwing cold water on an issue when you talk about buying land for LERDs. You either want the federal levy, and this is so far off.
I'm sorry, I said the port. I wasn't talking about LERDs. I said Venture Global. I was very specific what I said.
Okay, if you want us to buy land, I'm asking you, and have been asking since last year, to utilize the land that we have now off of Edward A. Bear Boulevard to develop. It's on the agenda under H for discussion. So to throw out something that you want us to go out and buy more land, you know, do you have a purpose for it?
As you well know, Mr. Russo, Councilman Russo, I can't engage. The reason why I'm presenting this plan to reinvest in Plaquemines Parish is because I can't spend the money without the support of this honorable council. And if the goal is to not reinvest in our parish, you know, we can keep on keeping on.
That's a political statement, Mr. Cormier.
No, it's not. It's not.
Which is useless, because
Excuse one at a time, please.
we sit here, try to balance a budget with revenues. I'm just going to sit back and watch the budget that'll be presented in November and see how it comes about and what your answer is. Because if you go back and read the local newspaper for the last couple of years, you'll see that this council reinvested every penny it could possibly reinvest. When the administration gave us a budget cutting 100 positions or 200 positions, we went back in, screened the budget, and restored every position that we could possibly afford. Now, those budgets are clear. You can read the Gazette. They had the front page articles telling the numbers. So we reinvested, if that's what you want to call reinvest, in the payroll. We did what we could do, and we will continue to do what we can do, but not under some charade game.
Councilman Russo, you, at the last council meeting, when Tommy Serpaz, the finance that you just referred to, came with a budget to recognize the fact that we've received over $18 million from BP, and you abstained. Now, did you have a conflict of interest?
No, I did not have a conflict of interest. I was opposed to the utilization of BP funds in expenditures for recurring revenue. And if you don't understand that, I don't know what you'll understand.
No, it's not a matter of understanding. It's a matter of, okay, well, it's obvious we disagree, and I'm asking to reinvest in our parish. And with that, honorable council members, that $18 million that we have received, my plan is very simple. The rule of 20%. And we put 20% into diversifying our economy, which was a big topic on the campaign trail, so that next time oil and gas goes down, we're better prepared to weather that storm. We put 20% into capital improvements and matching funds, which will allow us to leverage our cash and get the most bang for our buck on that money, that $18 million. And 20% in emergency funds, which is wise and prudent, 20% on bonded indebtedness, and 20% to reestablish and rehire some of the manpower that we lost so that our citizens are safe in flood events. And so they won't be calling us up worried about whether or not the ditch will drain because of a tropical storm or a hurricane headed our way. That's my presentation, and that's the status report, and I'd humbly ask all of you to consider my proposal, and I'd love to meet with any and all concerned to discuss it further. So thank you.
Sarah?
I've almost forgot my comment. But anyway, there was a couple of comments that was made earlier, and I made a few notes regarding the comments that was made. I can appreciate everything that has been said thus far, but I would not like the audience to be misled into believing that the previous administration, you know, the reason that our budget was in such disrepair and disarray is solely because of the reduction in oil prices. Don't nobody, for 1 minute, believe that's the case. because that was not the case. That had a bearing on our budget, but by no means, you must say that monies were misappropriated, money was being wasted, and I can take it a little bit further if you would like me to, but don't sell the audience short, and don't sell the public short, to make it appear that the reduction in oil prices was the sole reason, because it was not. And most of us in here know that it was not. I can call a couple of folks out of the audience, and I can assure you that they would agree with my comment. But I know the day have been far spent, but there's another question to you, Mr. Cormier. You mentioned earlier about a lady calling you about the outfall digit. We are in the midst of a hurricane season. And I know for a fact in my district, outfall ditches is not being cared for. And I know this is throughout the parish. So I would like you to just state what's the plan going forward, or to at least address the outfall ditches in the parish.
I thank you, Councilman Trufant, and I thank you for your support, because at the last council meeting, when the administration put forward a plan to rehire, how many positions in heavy equipment? Positions that were going to be dedicated to running backhoes, to digging up back ditches. Now, I am pleased that, and I'm going to try to be forward-looking, as some of my colleagues have requested. I am pleased to see that Councilman Burt has something on the agenda today that will, while it's a request for proposals to dig outfall ditches. Now, we still need the money. I mean, either way, you got to have the resources, but naturally I would have preferred, had that ordinance passed, to where we could have rehired some of the heavy equipment operators to start work on some of those ditches. When I represent to you, it's very simple. I mean, this is a simple thing. Either the words I speak, you've got to trust someone, and I've put forth numbers, and the numbers I put forth I can back up. And so when we tell you that there's a manpower shortage and a manpower crisis, we're not making this up. And so whether that manpower shortage and crisis is solved by rehiring employees, I've not asked for one new position, or whether it's solved by outsourcing it and doing private contractors, that's for this honorable council to decide. I don't have a vote in that. But it is my job to, by bringing forth ordinances for this honorable council to review, like we've been doing, and requesting the help. That is my job, and that's why I'm here requesting help. It's not for me, it's for our parish.
Mr. Brooks is asking this council to give him 6 positions. So, Mr. Brooks, they have it in hand, in mind, see what we're going to do, 'cause I don't want you to stand up there all the time.
I appreciate that. I thought Mr. Burt
He is requesting 6 employees to do a job for Plaquemine Parish. Ms. Williams, Nicole Williams.
Yes, in a follow-up to Ms. Audrey's question that she posed in reference to outfall ditches, all of us sit here, and all the ditches in all of our districts, or most of them, are overgrown. Some of them have trees and things of that nature. And if we have had 6 heavy equipment operators, or however many we have, is that their primary duty? Is that what they do, ditches? That would be the primary duty at this time, in my opinion.
We've got over 1,500 ditches throughout this parish. This parish has not shrunk. It's not changed.
But ditches haven't been cleaned in over a year.
You're correct, because we don't have the manpower. I'm not making this up.
What do they do? What do the heavy equipment operators do? What do they do? What's their responsibilities?
I'll let Director Wallace give that, but one of their jobs was to go out. I was having a conversation with one of the, when I was parish council attorney, Jay Friedman, on this issue. He went out and he requested manpower specifically to go just a crew just to dig ditches. And so that's why when we put that ordinance up last time,
I don't recall voting on an ordinance or anything coming to this table for heavy equipment. They had one for tractor drivers,
yes,
but not
there were
heavy
two.
equipment.
There were two at
Maybe
the
I'm
last.
mistaken then.
There were two at the last council meeting. There were two. There was one, we requested 12 tractor drivers. This honorable council decided not to grant our request, and they cut out 10 and gave two tractor drivers. Now, I'll note that when I went down and spoke to Mr. Emile, who was the foreman of the DOTD crew, down in, we stopped at Dad's Restaurant, they had 10 people down there, and he told me that we have 10, but we really need more. And that was just cutting on Highway 23. And I'm sure, I can't remember his last name, Emile.
They had 5 tractors, and it took them about 2 days to cut from Empire to Venice.
He told me he had 10 men and he needed
Would
more.
have 5 tractors, so I don't know
I
how
didn't,
many he had.
yeah, I didn't ask that question.
But anyway, back to
But the heavy equipment question, that was also on the agenda last time. We had, how many?
Well, what is that? What do they do? What do heavy equipment operators do other than clean the ditches?
We do everything in this parish.
No,
I'm telling you, we do everything in this
No,
parish.
Mr. Stanley, they don't
We
do
clean
everything.
ditches, we cut grasses, we dig buildings.
What is
we
their
do,
primary
We fix your
duty,
streets
though?
that
Their
you want to
pri-
fix.
their-
We do all of that stuff with what Brad was telling you about this morning. That's still part of heavy equipment. And look,
Like you
I
said,
get
I'm not
upset
trying to
when I'm
upset
talking
you.
about it because you
I'm just
guys
trying
know
to
exactly what we need. If you don't hire the backhoe operators and the doors operators and they got 5 dump trucks in my right now parked. You know why? They don't have nobody with CDL license.
But
more
the
than
primary
labor operators.
concern here right now, since May, that we've asked would be to clean the ditches.
I asked this, I've been asking you since October the 12th. I gave you all a copy on that. October of last year.
Yes,
I just-
and what?
And Councilwoman Williams, pardon our frustration, but it is, as a lifelong resident of Plaquemines who wants to provide these services. Like I
We're
said, this is-
frustrated too, because we get the calls from the constituents, and it seems like there's some kind of lack of management. You know, manage what you have and make do with what you have.
Councilwoman Williams, it's not,
I know.
like I said, I put the numbers forward. In 2004, 40 men in heavy equipment. In 2011, I think it was, 45 men. Today, there are 16. I mean, the numbers don't lie. You can't make these numbers up. It's true. We can back it up with budget books. Talk to council. I hate to go on back to the same person, but Jay Freeman was the one who was telling me about this. They had crews dedicated just to doing ditches.
I understand
and
that.
so when you ask 6, we've got, I'm trying to think of another way to communicate this without raising tempers, but it's the fact that, and like I said, and maybe Councilman Black, maybe you're right. Maybe we didn't need 40, maybe we don't need 45. I'm not requesting 45. The last ordinance, I think we had, it was 6 or 7 heavy equipment people. Definitely somewhere south of 12. How many was it? 13. 13 at the last council meeting. And so, like I said, I'm trying my best to communicate the needs. We requested 13. And like I said, I apologize if I'm not reaching out more.
Other than cleaning dishes, what do the heavy equipment operators do?
We take care of your levees, we take care of your roads, we do whatever have to be done in construction.
And that takes precedent over ditches?
How you gonna do ditches? I went and got 2 operators, 1 operator to cut ditches for the whole parish, 2 for the whole parish.
So all 6 of them aren't
How many
qualified to cut
ditches you
ditches?
think I can cut with 15? I got 1,500 ditches to cut. How many ditches you think I can cut in a year? In 1 year, with 2 people digging ditches or 3 people? You tell
Well, I
me.
don't know. That's not for me to
Well, I'm
decide.
gonna let you. That's an easy one. If it takes me a week for a ditch, how long do you think it's gonna take me to get to your place in Venice?
Well, that should be where you start, because that's where the storm would come
Well,
in.
if I was you, I would be the first one to vote for manpower too, and you didn't do that.
So we can't afford manpower, so let's move on
you
next.
don't-
But Councilwoman Williams, that's where I'm
Just
telling
that
you,
simple.
but we can't afford manpower. It's a question of using the 18 million that came in. And I want to thank you for your vote, because you voted, as Tommy requested, to recognize. We've gotten to a point to where just basic facts. The over $18 million is in our account at Regions. And, you know, so I thank you for voting in favor of that. But I would encourage you to consider, for the good of your district, to voting to use some of that money to rehire some of these people.
And what are you going to do when this VP money runs out, Mr. Cormier, and the revenue is not generated? Lay these people off?
No, the question is this, is that we're in a downturn in the economy. The economy, oil and gas, we know, is a cyclical boom-bust cycle. So oil and gas is going to come back up. I'm not asking
it can
to
come
go...
back up, but if the production's not there, it doesn't matter.
No. But I'm not asking to spend all 18 million.
We have a water system that needs to be upgraded parish-wide. That would be my top priority.
Yes, and I agree with you, and that's why I brought as you requested, I called up Mr. Chris Bordelon and brought him over here. And so the last council meeting, I think we had a total of maybe expenditures, it was south of $800,000. You know, to bring back the 13 heavy equipment, the 12 tractor drivers, and a few other things. And I'm not saying, you know, vote against some of it, but at least vote in favor of some of this for the good of your own district. Because Boothville Venice is going to bear the brunt, like you said, more than some other districts. I mean, if for nothing else.
But just, never mind. I'm done. I yield.
Mr. Burt?
Yeah, I actually have a question that's not on the agenda, so hopefully it'll be answered, and a statement. And I asked this at the last council meeting. With the 7 operators we have in the heavy equipment, what's the protocol for the request? How are the requests determined?
And Councilman Burt, we've got over, what is it, 800, 900 requests? We've got over.
I understand that.
So it's a determination of what is the most urgent. And right now, the most urgent thing is trying to batten down the hatches as best we can with Tropical Storm Harvey in the Gulf.
Prior to Harvey, though.
There's, when you have 900 requests and you've got 6 or 7 heavy equipment operators, I'm allowing my men to have a certain amount of discretion, but it's overwhelming. And that's why you'll see the frustration. It's, you know, never before have we had so few employees. Any parish president has this few employees to work with. And my directors are in the same boat.
Mr. Cormier, that was not my question. My question was, what's the protocol for assigning work, public requests?
And it's a discretionary act is what's most urgent because there's over 800 and 900 requests.
Mr. Wallace make that call?
Yes, I make that call. What else am I going to do?
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking. What the protocol?
Yeah, I make that call.
The protocol, right now, if you're asking for a written policy, it's a emergency determinations. What's the most pressing or the most urgent? Because there's over 800, and we simply don't have the manpower to ever catch up.
I got one more question. Okay.
Excuse me.
I'm not finished yet.
Me.
I have one more statement.
All right.
I would just ask the administration to please actively engage or alert the council during this potential emergency event. Like at the last tropical event, this council was not made aware of a lot of things going on, either levee breach in Myrtle Grove. So I would just ask that the administration please keep us alerted, actively engaged as this storm approaches. That's all I have.
Councilman Black?
All right, just to be quick. I'm glad Mr. Wallace made the statement that when Ms. Williams asked what does heavy equipment do, and his statement was everything pretty much that Prom does, which is to my point, to consolidate those departments. So, hold on, Mr. Wallace, I'll let you answer that in a second. My second thing was, we talked about manpower. You and I had this conversation 4 council meetings ago. And when I said that I could not support the recurring costs, BP money to be spent on recurring costs. And I offered to sit down with you and discuss doing RFPs and going out for contract. Because you know, if we were to vote to hire people last week or 2 weeks ago, those operators wouldn't be hired and ready to operate until probably December at the earliest. So we would be out of the storm season to begin with. So my solution, and not really, I think a lot of folks in the council solution was, hey, we would not mind using BP funds to go out to do a one-time drainage sweep, clear out ditches, cut grass, do certain things, so that prom and heavy equipment and everybody else could maintain it afterwards, and utilize those funds for a one-time outsourcing of cleaning ditches, making sure the drainage was adequate, and that could have been done in a very short time. So that's what I would like to see done, and I think Mr. Byrd has some legislation to do RFPs. Hopefully it's not too late, but as far as the drainage issue goes, that's the way I think we should resolve it. I mean, hiring people, training people, getting them on board, I mean, I can't imagine that we could get that done in a couple weeks. It would take months to do. So we would be out of storm season. But I want to turn it over. Mr. Wallace had mentioned something about going down, the parish going down, or what's finish.
Okay, my boss, he's a politician. I work for a living, okay? Makes a big difference, okay? What I'm gonna tell you is, I'm gonna go back to cutting grass and cutting ditches. You can say, I don't think it's funny, I really don't. You can't bait me because I don't think it's funny. And then people looking at you on TV. Okay, cutting grass right now. There's Bradford Brooks right back there right now. Right now, he needs 8 boom operators to cut grass, to do the, cut the ditches. I just like to ask him, how many you need?
Mr. Brooks, would you please come up, Mike?
I'm gonna give you an idea what's missing, and I don't care how you figure it out. You got to do it one way or another, or you can just dissolve half of this stuff. All right. How many boom operators you need right now to keep up?
We have at this current time, we have 8 boom tractors parked with no operators, and we have 2 ditch bank cutters parked with no operators, and 5 zero-turns parked with no operators.
What he's saying is, it takes specialized people to do this work. You can't get nobody off the street just say, go get on the tractor and cut grass, or go cut booms, all right, whatever. Same thing in the heavy equipment department. I got 5 dump trucks parked over there. 5. There's not one with a CDL license. I've been asking you, and I got your request, a lot of your requests, Ms. Williams, and there is nobody to do your work because this is wrong right here. Say that number again for me, please. How many you need? So maybe they'll understand what the devil you're saying.
Yeah,
you need 8. Now, tell the people that, and they're telling these people they could cut grass. How are you going to cut grass if you don't have nobody to cut the grass? And the request is in there right now. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Matter of fact, 8 of them right there got requests to get ditches cut. But nobody to cut them. But they right there, they get on TV. I need my ditches cut.
Brooks.
Maybe I'll give them an old time bull one like my grandpa and get each one one.
Mr. Lapine?
All right.
I guess I'm glad you brought that up, and maybe you could help me, Mr. Brooks, too. Under 7G, I have regarding overtime pay. So I guess I'd like to know who is getting overtime pay and who is not getting overtime pay.
We were
And
getting...
wait. And specifically, what are they doing? Are we paying overtime to fill sand? Where are you going?
I'm going to answer that question, Councilman Lapine. We're getting ready for this hurricane season. Okay. That's what we've been doing. We've been filling sandbags and repairing levees. That's what we've been doing.
Just like we had the 25,000 sandbags when we
we're
closed
trying to micromanage everything, all right? That's what we've been doing. Now, you voted to cut everything, cut all this manpower, and you're putting the people and the lives, their property at risk in this parish. Now, if we want to go out in that direction, we can go there, all right? I was trying to keep this a civil tone, but
I mean, you can raise your voice, and you can have me on film just like you want to, okay? But let me ask you again and answer the questions.
I request a 3-minute recess. 3 minutes. Call the council meeting back to order. 6:02.
Do we have a quorum?
Councilman Lapine.
Mr. Cormier, I'd just like to ask the question under 7H. What departments are receiving overtime? I know we're in hurricane season. What departments are getting, or what are they doing with the overtime?
Individuals, some of the parish employees have volunteered for overtime, and this was done to have sandbags so that we would be prepared, and we are prepared insofar as for sandbags, with providing the sandbags to the contractors per our legal agreement for the contracts with the people constructing levees.
Okay, I guess, can you be more, what departments are getting overtime?
The volunteers, I think,
From
some from prom, and there may be some from maybe we requested volunteers. So prom, maybe some solid waste.
Okay,
but the goal is that we're in hurricane season, and this administration takes that seriously.
Thank you for that. I just, when at the end of the year, the budget comes up and this prom comes up, says I need more money, I paid overtime. Heavy equipment says I need money, I paid overtime. Ferry department says I need pay. I'm just trying to get a handle on what departments, I guess, are going to come after us and say we need more money.
The more detailed list, this is why we had an ordinance, Councilman Lapine, up last time, to get that level of detailed information. This is what historically a director of administration would do, that's why we put that ordinance up to pay the lowest rate in the entire southeast Louisiana area. That's all we were requesting. I think $85,000. At the parish president's meeting, the directors in St. Tammany make about $140,000 a year. The directors in the city of Mandeville make about $104,000 a year. The people of Plaquemines have directors that only make $36,000 a year, and that's why we can't attract someone to take this position with the qualifications necessary as director of administration. I remember a couple years back we kept talking about the ORCHA study, and I'm sure you heard about it. And we were regularly giving our employees pay raises because we had to comply with the ORCHA study. Civil service would regularly, every 2 years, update salaries. Now, I don't hear anything about the ORCHA study. Parish employees haven't received a pay raise in over 3 years. So those are some of the issues that we could possibly help get you that information quicker if we had a director of administration who could compile that data.
One final question. Okay, I got one final question. And you say that you're getting volunteers from different departments, working in different areas, coming from various jobs, duties. Are we paying any directors any overtime pay?
Yes.
Councilman Lapine.
Okay, I mean, Mr. Comey,
are you implying? I'm trying.
That's a question.
No, well, I have a question too, because I remember you were on the council when Director Lott and Director B.J. Williams, in 1 week, billed. I think it was they went for one of them went for an entire week, according to the BP overtime pay sheets, and only slept, I think, 4 hours. And we paid $80,000 to a director. One got $80,000 in one month, and the other one got $40,000. So yes, there's precedent to pay directors overtime, and yes, I do believe we're paying Director Wallace overtime.
Simple question: yes or no? Are we paying overtime? I mean, thank you. That's all I need. Thank you.
Any other comments from the table? Audience?
I'd
like Tommy said, we got about a $6 million deficit we're gonna have to deal with. And the money gotta come from somewhere, like always. But we got 18 million. You guys been going back and forth over this for like forever. We're gonna have to spend some of the money to take care of the balance of that budget. But we still gonna have some left. I'm not in favor of spending all the BP money. I'm not in favor of that. But we gotta spend some of it. Because if we don't, the people are not getting the services. The people are not getting the services. We gotta start looking at ourselves and see, really, are we really helping ourselves? Or making ourselves look like fools? Really and truly. We fussing and fighting over situations that a kid could come to agreement on. Come on. Take out your egos. The people elected each one of you guys to work for them. But the way some of this is going is like you started working for yourselves. Let the people see that you can work together. You know, we got some money, but let's use the money wisely. And we do need more help. This parish is too long for not to say it needs help. It's not the size of Orleans, Lakewide, not the size of Jefferson. It's Plaquemine, and it's long. It takes laborers. And I think about salaries. You guys always question about people doing this and people doing that, but you can't pay what the private sector paying, but you want these guys to work, I say, like slaves, because you're not really getting paid for what you really should be getting paid. So, cooler minds should get together and work this thing out for the people, man. You gotta start doing things for the people.
Yes, Warren Lawrence. I just had some questions on the grant that was applied for, the loan was applied for, and I know the people are not here to answer it, but we made an application for either a loan or grant or whatever it was, and it never materialized for some other reason. I think there's an answer has to be given to the public on what happened here. You know, first time I ever saw this was today, but the program provides funding in forms of loans and grants to clean and reliable drinking water systems, sanitary sewers, sanitary solid waste disposal, and stormwater drainage to households and business in eligible rural areas. We have a lot of eligible rural areas that need ditches dug and everything. And my question is, why can you put one application in for doing your ditches and stuff, and one application for the water, one for the sewer, one for the garbage disposal, whatever that's taken? I mean, it seems like there's money out there that can be applied for. Now, I don't understand where the administration is at in not getting these grants. Is it because we don't have an administration person on board? That's the reason we're going to use that we don't have it? We don't have a grants administrator that's applying for these grants? I mean, you know, if you're coming in and there's money available through whether it's a state program, federal program, and you don't apply for them or you don't fill out the application properly, it's showing egg on our face that some other parish is sucking up this money and we're not getting our share. And my part is right now is what is holding up our applications for these grants? Who is responsible to apply for them and to make sure they go through?
But did I misunderstood the guy to say that they were a lending agency?
Yeah.
You have to,
I I'm sorry.
In other words, it's not grants, not necessarily.
No, it's
grants.
loans and could be some grants.
But it all depends on the budgetary funding from DC, whether or not the grants are available.
Right.
Also, I guess whether the loans are available.
But under the state system, it's a total grant that we don't get. It's not a loan from the
But
state
that's
system.
providing funding is there.
Well, I mean, it's all, he presented something that said there's $500,000 available from the state. Now, if we didn't apply for it, that's our fault.
That's right.
I just want to know, that's the first I ever knew that they had it available from the state. And if we're not applying for it, then I'm just asking who's at fault? Is it because we don't have a grant administrator, or do we have a grant administrator?
We have Ms. Hilda Lott, who began as a secretary, and when she moved into the position, she is the only person for the parish for that. The Louisiana Department of Health and Hospital, and this is where there's an ordinance on the table today, and I think, you know, I don't want to work at cross purposes, but the ordinance Councilwoman Williams has on the table doesn't want to look and investigate into these grants. It's the ordinance you have.
What are you referring? The only thing I have on the table is 6W, 300,000 that y'all want to appropriate for oyster hatchery.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it one that you plan to introduce, I was told? Maybe I got bad information.
In reference to...
For this water development project, I was told
Yes,
that you...
I am going to introduce something for funding for the water development project.
Okay, and that was not going to participate in any of this, correct? It was going to use the BP money for it, correct?
That's some BP money, yes.
I guess my question then is, what held up? I mean, this is over a year. We've been looking for, we put an application in.
Wait, Mr. Juno have an answer for you.
Lord, I talked to Mr. Giles a while ago. He said they did all the paperwork they were supposed to do, the administration. The engineering company is the one holding up everything.
And who pays the engineering company?
We do.
We do.
We do, right. The administration, well, like I said, they're the ones that don't, you know, you can laugh, but that's what he told me. Now,
It's not being held accountable.
whoever's supposed to be talking to the engineering company didn't do their job in the last year.
And
So
I'm
we gotta
asking,
get it done.
who is that?
It's the name of the engineering firm, Mr. Lawrence, is Kyle and Associates. And the last time they reported to me, and I was looking to see if someone from Severn Trent was here, it was the issue that Councilmember Russo brought up about the rate. They were doing investigation into that 38% water loss or whatever it was.
40. Okay, so that's the reason, and we're just on a dead set, we'll never move off, I guess.
The last time I spoke with someone from Kyle and Associates, that's what I was given. They were waiting from Severn Trent for the information.
Okay, well, I don't know how that's an acceptable answer, but neither be the case. The other thing I had was one thing, is I know Mr. Byrd has something coming in about introducing something for, I would call scattered site contracts to go ahead and dig ditches and stuff in this parish and stuff and maintain ditches or whatever. Why does it have to come through a councilman to get this information? Why can't the administration go out and get information on scattered sites? I need people to dig ditches, I need people to cut grass, and to get through an emergency, at least if you coming forward and you already have this information available. I mean, scattered site contracts we've had all over, whether it's repairing roads, whether it's filling potholes, and you use that on an emergency basis. They come in and give you a scattered site price, and it's publicly bid. I don't understand why this parish don't have that. Set aside. You don't have to hire them. If you can do it with your own, you do it with your own. If you can't, you have a scattered site contract available to come back to this body and say, we can't do it, we don't have the people, but I got a scattered site contract, I can do it for the contract, and you already have the price in hand for how much it's going to be done. I mean, that's the way it's done in other parishes, and I just don't understand why we have to have a councilman introduce an ordinance or resolution or something to go out and solicit these prices and have them on hand.
And Mr. Lawrence, under our charter, the council approves the expenditures. Now, you're correct, under emergency, I do have because pursuant to federal law, I do have some leeway, and we've done that. And as you heard Councilman Lepine's questions, I have done that. We've done some emergency work on the Batchers. We've done some emergency work, and it's a good thing that we did, because I've been grilled about it. At the last two prior council meetings, I've been grilled about the emergency contracts and how, if heaven forbid, how much money are you spending? You need and that was pursuant to the agreement we have with the Corps. There, we agreed to maintain the Batcher level sites and clean up all the debris. And it's because of the manpower shortages, we did not have the manpower. So we went out, and I took the responsibility, and I'll be responsible. And you know what? I'm glad I did, because we've got this storm in the Gulf that if we didn't have this stuff cleaned up, that stuff could turn into projectiles, and that's the reason why the Corps wants that cleaned up and do damage to the levee.
And I'll just end it with saying, if we look at the way it's done in other parishes, other states, is that a scattered site contract, you might need their okay to appropriate at the time you use it. That money is not given to that contractor unless you use him. Then you come back, but you have it available to you as a contract at all times. It's bid on. We used to bid on it on a point repair. On if you had a sewer and it was 6 foot deep, you had a price how much to repair, 6 inch, 8 inch, 10 inch, and that scattered site sat there. I may never use that contract, but when I needed it, I then had to go back and get appropriation for it. There's no money available, but you have the prices available to you.
That's a brilliant idea, Mr. Lawrence. And how much money would you request? Because this council could do that. Set aside a scatter site fund and then we do a request for proposals, and that way, when we need, the money's already budgeted.
I would ask the council for this much. 0. I'm going to get the price on if I need them. Then I'm coming back to them and tell them how much I need. I have it available. Now, if you don't want to fund it, let it fall in. Let the hole in the street stay there. But I can't do it with my people. I have it on a scattered site that I bid. I can put it out to that contractor like that if they appropriate the money. So you ask me a question, how much would I ask them for? Nothing. I want the contract on hand. I don't want a penny until I use it. Some of those contracts we never used. Other ones we had to go back. We could not manage. Emergency came up. I had scattered site contracts in an emergency. How to take care of it? I'm sorry.
Mr. Byrd?
I just have a quick question for Mr. President. You mentioned about the river batcher cleaning and that we're supposed to clean up the river batchers.
Pursuant to an agreement, contractual agreement, just like the port referenced, their legal obligations with Venture Global, we have a legal obligation with the Corps to keep those batchers.
To pick all the debris up?
Correct.
Because right now in Jesuit Bend, all they're doing is taking the debris from the levee and sweeping it up against the trees. So the debris is not being picked up. They're pushing it from point A to point B and it's staying there.
Okay, well, I went out and observed some of the levees in the Bell Chase area. That area has been picked up. I'm sure they're working as diligently as they can, but correct, your idea is to either remove that debris from the area, from the batcher.
Check.
Let me say this.
Mr. Russell?
So from following along this discussion, we are taking river debris off of the batches and moving it to some other location? Or are we just pushing it back out to the water line? Because, it's my understanding that from reading the media press release that we had went through the levee inspections. When was the last time we went through a levee inspection? Was it in June?
October. That's for sure.
It was in October, and President Russo, you should be familiar, Councilman Russo, you should be familiar with this Corps legal agreement because it's been in effect for quite a while.
And Mr. Carmen, I'm very familiar with it, and that's why I'm bringing it up.
Councilman Russo, I make an intent to keep the professionalism, and I refer to you as Councilman Russo. I'd request the same courtesy.
President Cormier, I am very familiar with the agreement, and the question was, are we hauling debris off of the river Batcher to another location, or are we pushing it to the water's edge, has been done for the last 50 years? Yes.
Correct, the latter.
So we're pushing it to the water line? That's what you said. We're not hauling it off, correct?
I know you're very familiar with this. We're pushing it on the side as far as I can push it. 14 foot off that levee and pile it up. Hopefully to sustain it, we'd put dirt on it. Or I asked Mr. Robichaud the other day, at certain times, I'm going to burn some of it.
Well, that's a good move.
Portion of
That's
it.
a good move, Mr. Wallace. I'm glad to see you doing something constructive.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Lawrence?
All right, next item, please. There are no bids and advertisement. We'll move to beer and liquor license. Councilman Black, you have any?
I have a request for one, but not.
Mr. Levine, you have any? Do you know? Rousseau? I have none. Mr. Burt?
None.
Ms. Sullivan?
None.
Mr. Edgecombe? Ms. Williams?
Two, yes, I do. I have a special event permit for the Plaquemines Partnership YMCA fundraiser, New Year's Eve dance to be held New Year's Eve at the Bureau's Auditorium from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m. until 1 a.m. on January the 1st. And I also have one for the Plaquemines Parish Fair and Orange Festival. For the annual Orange Festival to be held at Fort Jackson. Starting event setup will begin on 11/27 at 8 a.m. and it will conclude on 12/4, and the event will be the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of December. With those, I offer.
Ms. Williams offers, second by Mr. Edgecombe. Machine is open. Passes 9-0. Building permit, Section 8, construction, we'll take in global, 1 through 8.
Number one, Forza Operating LLC application number 2017-365 dated May 12, 2017. Plug and abandon SL 18077 well number 1 and remove existing 4-inch flow line and all other structures northeast of Bakers Bay area. Councilmember Bartholomew. Number two, Shell Pipeline Company, application number 2017-530, dated July 28, 2017. Install concrete mats over exposed pipeline, main pass area block 80, Councilmember Bartholomew. Number three, Shell Pipeline Company, application number 2017-534, dated July 31, 2017. Lower the Delta 16-inch Alliance pipeline off of West Ravenna Road, Myrtle Grove, Councilmember Edgecombe. Eustis Engineering, application number 2017-541, dated August 1st, 2017. Drill 1 soil boring and perform 2 cone penetration tests for foundation repair to the existing Belle Chase Animal Shelter, 479 F. Edward Aver Boulevard, Belle Chase, Councilmember Black. Number 5, Crimson Golf LLC, application number 2017-547, dated August 3, 2017. Wheel wash, install board mats, repair caisson at 7 locations along an existing 10-inch pipeline, and replace a portion of existing pipeline, Quarantine Bay and main pass area. Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 7, Crimson Golf LLC, application number 2017-560, dated August 29, 2017. Anomaly digs along an existing 12-inch pipeline for repairs, Sunrise area. Councilmember Edgecombe. Number 7, Hillcore Energy Company, application number 2017-563, dated August 10, 2017. Install 3-inch flow line, Lake Grand Eclale area. Councilmember Edgecombe. Number 8, Hellas Oil and Gas Company, LLC, application number 2017-580, dated August 17, 2017. Site clearance operations for the plug and abandonment of SL 195QQ well number 82, removal of other structures and abandoned flow lines in place, North Black Bay Field. Councilmember Bartholomew.
I offer. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Councilman Acecombe. Questions from the table? Audience, the machine is open. Passes 7-1. Next, B, C, D, and E will be taken global.
4B, Paul Barrios, Third Trailer Residence, 12484 Highway 23, Belle Chase, Louisiana. Councilmember Burt. C, Shady Oaks Trailer Park, Frank Daigle, final approval for one additional trailer park space, Shady Oaks Lane, Belle Chase, Louisiana. Councilmember Edgecombe. D, Katie Jones replacement trailer in an R-1C zoning district, 175 East Bellevue Lane, Port Sulphur, Louisiana. Councilmember Trufant Salvant. E, a resolution approving the issuance of a special permit to Doree Henry to install a replacement trailer on property located at 118 Willow Lane, Port Sulphur, Louisiana, all in accordance with application number 2017-597 dated August 21st, 2017. Councilmember Trufant Salvant.
I offer. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Salvant and Mr. Juno. Any questions from the table? The machine is open. Passes 9-0. Introduction of ordinance and resolution. Councilman Lapine. Councilman Juno. Councilman Black, you have any? All right.
An ordinance to amend and as amended readopt Chapter 5, Article 3 of the Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinances, dogs and other animals, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. A resolution assigning office space in the Belle Chase Government Complex on F. Edward A. Bear Boulevard, Building 203, Belle Chase, Louisiana, to the Water Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution to rescind, annul, and set aside resolution number 15-413, assigning office space in Building 100 to the Library Administration Department and Buildings Department, assigning office space to the Library Administration Department in Building 203, assigning office space to the Buildings Department in Building 600, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's all.
Sir, I have some. Resolution providing for an exception of the paying on the ferry toll for all commissioned officers of Plaquemines Parish Sheriff Office and otherwise to provide respect thereto. A resolution authorizing Plaquemines Parish government represented by Plaquemines Parish President to do all things necessary, proper, and to negotiate and perfect and execute a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Plaquemines Parish Assessor's Office for the cost sharing of professional service for the collection of data and the valuation of certain oil and gas properties, personal properties located in the Plaquemines Parish for 2018 ad valorem tax year, otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2017 operating expenditure budget, various funds, various departments, various line items, otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance requesting the fund to accept the Civil Service Department assigned office space 211, 214, 215, 216, and testing room at Port Sulphur Government Building for conducting indoor air quality IAQ assessment, including airborne mold spore sampling and a limit visual inspection for mold due to the water leaks through the walls and onto the carpet since Hurricane Isaac, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2017 manpower structure operating budget and otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance to approve the amended pay plan and classification schedule adopted by Civil Service Commission on August 3rd, 2017, creating classification of project manager and otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance authorizing and directing the council chair on behalf of the entire council to sign the invoices received by the council secretary's office and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Mr. Burke, you have it?
I have one, Mr. Chairman. An ordinance to reestablish the Department of Economic Development and amend the 2017 General Fund Manpower Structure and Operating Expenditure Budget, Economic Development/Tourism Department, and to authorize an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of Plaquemines Parish Government and otherwise to provide respect thereto.
Solvent. Ms. Williams?
I have a few. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan by appropriating $6,800 to the ATV Off-Road Park South Plaquemines project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. I don't know, they gave me all kind of copies. An ordinance authorizing an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of Plaquemines Parish Government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2017 operating revenue budget, various funds, various departments, various line items, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, regulatory upgrades / capacity increase, Bell Chase Water Treatment Plant project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2017 operating revenue budget, various funds, various departments, various line items, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's it, sir. That's all I have.
Okay, now we go to the reading of the second reading on the resolution and ordinance for passage. I think we start off with B.
6A1.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. One is deferred. Wait, which one? Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's withdrawn. I'm sorry. Apologize for that. Coming back at another point.
6B, a resolution authorizing the parish president to negotiate and enter into an agreement with Arlington Ridge Group, LLC, to provide consulting, advisory, and lobbying services regarding government representation at the state and federal level and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Councilman Burke.
I will offer.
Councilman Burke offers. Got a second? Second by Councilman Lapine. Councilman Burke.
I believe we have a substitute. Mr. Russo has a substitute for this item.
Next item, please. We just pass over. Just hold everything to come back at.
6E, an ordinance to amend the 2017 General Fund Manpower Structure and Operating Expenditure Budget, Drainage Stock Shop Department, and to authorize an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of Plaquemines Parish Government and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Offer. Is there a second? Oh, I'm sorry. With the changes, I'm sorry. I ain't offer with the changes. You have the changes? Read the changes, please.
In Section 2 on line 21, we're changing the dollar amount from $137,340 to $77,210. On line 27, we're changing the amount on salaries and wages from $84,630 to $46,200. On line 28, we're changing FICA taxes from $1,260 to $700. We're changing retirement from $10,999 to $6,020. And on the next line, we're changing group health insurance from $40,460 to $24,290.
All right, we're going to pass over this when we come back. Mr. Roussel, we have to fill in the blank. That's what we're waiting on Mr. President to come in. All right, Mr. Roussel.
He's passing over.
B, B.
A resolution authorizing the parish president to negotiate and enter into an agreement with Mercury Public Affairs to provide consulting, advisory, and lobbying services regarding government representation at the federal level and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Whereas the Plaquemines Parish government has need for representation and lobbying on matters at the federal government level. Whereas Mercury Public Affairs has vast experience with the current U.S. presidential administration and expertise in federal priorities such as the National Flood Insurance Program, FEMA PWs, hurricane and flood protection issues involving the Corps of Engineers, as well as other infrastructure projects such as the Peters Road extension and the Bridge and Tunnel Replacement Project. And whereas Mercury Public Affairs can provide lobbying services for both the parish government and the port, and whereas it would be in the best interest of the parish and the port to retain the services of Mercury Public Affairs. Now therefore, be it further resolved by the Plaquemines Parish, Parish Government Council that the parish president negotiating and entering into an agreement with Mercury Public Affairs to provide consulting, advisory, and lobbying services regarding government representation at the federal level.
Yes, this is a request that President Cormier has requested, and in compliance with working with the port, an effort to have a lobbyist to represent the parish's interest on issues such as the National Flood Insurance, FEMA, PWs, hurricane protection issues involving the Corps, as well as the other infrastructure projects that were mentioned, such as Peters Road and Extension. And I offer the substitute. Ask for a second.
I'll second.
Offer Mr. Russell, second by Mr. Burt on the substitution. Any questions from the table? Machine is open. Audience, I'm sorry. That machine is open.
Questioned out.
It passes 9-0.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next, please.
E, an ordinance to amend the 2017 General Fund Manpower Structure and Operating Expenditure Budget Drainage Stock Shop Department and to authorize an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
We're going to defer. Next.
H, an ordinance authorizing and directing the parish president to
Deferred. Councilman, deferred.
6K,
H is deferred.
L, an ordinance to terminate the state emergency or Disaster Act declared by the Plaquemines Parish President Amos Cormier in accordance with the Louisiana Revised Statute 29:727 et seq. And to sign any and all documents that are necessary in connection therewith.
You read L, huh?
I read L.
You read L, right? Well, we got to go back to T. All right, L is Mr. Levine. L. Yeah, well, we're going to go back to K is deferred. All right, Councilman Levine, L. Yes, offers their second. Is there a second?
On L? I'll
Is there a
second.
second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Roussel. L. On L, huh? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. You're not loud enough. I can't hear them. Any questions from the table? Audience?
Yes.
Mr. President?
To putting aside the legalities, we've got a hurricane now in the Gulf, and so I'll just make it clear without jumping up and down, this is a bad idea. Let's hope and pray that we don't suffer any adverse consequences. I just wanted to be on the record, though, saying that ahead of time.
She is open. It passes 6, 3 noes. 3 no. Next, please.
6M, a resolution to approve cooperative agreement LA Gov number 20002755568 with the State of Louisiana Department of Natural Resources for the Plaquemines Parish Local Coastal Program implementation, to authorize the execution of said agreement by the parish president and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Councilman Roussel.
I'll offer an extra second.
So Roussel offer as is. Is there a second? Is there a second? Mr. Bright, second. Mr. Roussel.
Yes, this is a renewal of the annual contract with the Coastal Restoration Cooperative Agreement with the State Department of Natural Resources. Total project cost is about $65,732, of which the contracting party agrees to provide half. This is what funds the coastal project, the coastal department. The state pays half of it, we pay half of it, and I only assume that it goes to the salary of the director.
Any questions from the table? Audience? Scene is open. Passes 9-0.
Thank you.
6N, an ordinance to amend the Plaquemines Code of Ordinances to include District 1 within the enforcement jurisdiction of the Health Department for the purposes of abating blighted vehicles. Council, excuse me.
I offer. Huh? What? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Microphone.
You had asked me to draft this for you, Mr. John, because there were several people who were complaining in Braithwaite Park about a bunch of vehicles that were junked up and just blighting the area, and because of the exclusion, that was unenforceable. But if this should pass, it would become enforceable for blighted vehicles.
There's no body.
There's no body? Oh, well, we need to add something. Yeah, so let's
We'll defer it. Defer it. Next, please.
O, an ordinance to amend the 2017 Waterworks and Sewage Fund Manpower Structure and Operating Expenditure Budget, Waterworks and Sewer Billing Department, and to authorize an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I offer. As presented, is there a second? Second by Councilman Juneau. Questions from the table? Yes.
Did position, Angie? So this isn't replacing someone? This is an additional meter reader?
Where's the money coming from?
The Water and Sewage Fund, unreserved, undesignated.
Or from their own funding? Does that affect the general
No.
fund anyway? No? Not a water fund?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any comments from the table? Audience? Scene is open. Passes 7-1-1. No. Next item, please. P, Q, and R are deferred. P, Q, and R are deferred at the request of Finance. There's no funding.
S.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They just can't dig. There's no funding. It's deferred.
S, an ordinance to amend the 2017 general fund operating expenditure budget, drainage, stock shop department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Councilman Burt?
I will offer with the change on line 9. On line 9, in the blank, insert unreserved, undesignated.
Mr. Burt, is that general fund unreserved?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically,
Wait, second? Sorry, go ahead.
this funding source, this fund is to replace one of the pumps that's out at the Ollie Pump Station.
Any questions from the table? Audience? Machine is open. All right.
Yes, there's a pump that's out at Ollie Pump Station.
How much?
180,000.
Okay.
That's to repair, right?
Sir?
Repair,
Yes, sir.
right? Yeah.
No, it's not fixed. It's 6 weeks out. Thank you.
Passes 9-0. Next, please.
T, a resolution authorizing the parish president Amos Cormier III or his designee to prepare and advertise for requests for proposals from companies to perform the services of cleaning, sweeping, maintaining, maintenance, removal, hauling, and disposal of all debris in right-of-way, outfall ditches located parish-wide in all districts and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Councilman Burt.
I'll offer.
Councilman Burt offers. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Williams. Questions from the table?
Yeah, I do. This is
Councilman Black.
what I was talking about before, which I'm going to support, but I would like to kind of hear from the administration of what's going to be your process of prioritization, or have you guys made a decision on how the RFP is going to go out? I mean, what is it going to state, or how this is going to be executed? I'm going to vote for it, but I just want to make sure that
But they haven't gotten that far yet. This is just asking him to start that process. So,
You have to come back to
exactly, they got to come back to the council. I haven't seen an RFP. This is just engaging them to start that process.
all right.
Let me follow up on that.
And what I intend to do is leave it more open-ended, because without a budget appropriation, we'll just see what proposals come in, a request for proposals.
Councilman Roussel.
Yes, there is, I believe, an ordinance on the books that requires the administration to provide us with the proposals up front before they go out for bid. As we talked about with the port this morning, the conflict that we had with not knowing exactly what was in the proposal and having to ask all of these questions at the table because of not knowing what was in the proposal before it went to the newspaper. I would ask that the administration, once the proposal is prepared, to send it to all the council members so we can review it and make comments before you advertise it, according to the ordinance that's on the books now.
Councilman Russo, I'll be more than glad to comply. Do you have that ordinance number?
Yeah, but actually.
I'll provide it to you if you don't have it.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what, it's, I don't see it here.
All right, any more questions from the table? Audience?
So we privatize it now?
No.
Not yet.
What's the proposal about?
To get the study, to get some prices, I guess.
Oh, okay. All right.
Might be cheaper to hire people back.
But you're still spending money. You're still spending money. It's one-time money, the difference.
Machine is open. passes 9-0. Next,
Thank you.
please.
6U, an ordinance to amend the 2017 operational budget to fund the cost of repair and continued maintenance of the Mississippi River levee near and within the parameter of the Phillips 66 refinery and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Solvent, fill in the blank. Passes.
Ms. Archer, would you like me to read it?
Yes, please.
An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan hurricane protection levy -WB-MRL project and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Whereas Plaquemines Parish government, by and through its assumption of the rights and duties of the Buras Levee District, is contractually obligated to maintain the West Bank Mississippi River levee, WB-MRL, in the parish. And whereas several maintenance issues have been identified within the WB-MRL from Station 966 plus 50 to Station 1056 plus 26. And whereas after review of the 5-year capital improvements plan, funding is necessary for the hurricane protection levee WB-MRL project. Now therefore be it ordained by the Plaquemines Parish Council that Section 1, the 5-year capital improvements plan is amended by appropriating $100,000 to the hurricane protection levee WB-MRL project from general fund, unreserved, undesignated fund balance, funding year 2017.
Solomon offers. There's a second. There's a second. There's a second. Second by Councilman Ashcombe. Questions from the table?
Could we get an explanation of what it's for?
Yes, yes. I would like Mr. Shan Landry to address this, but it basically dealing with I wasn't a part of that meeting that took place with, I think, with the administration and folks from Phillips 66. And I think what they arrived at from that meeting is that we were responsible for that levee, to the repairs to that levee. But I'm going to let Mr. Landry elaborate more.
That's exactly it, Ms. Audrey. We do have to repair and maintain the levee behind Phillips 66. It's a little different than most of the levee stretches because it's a controlled facility because, you know, they have volatile chemicals and whatnot there. But we're going to work with them, and we're either going to provide the materials and they're going to go out there. We're going to work out a little deal with them to do it. We're still in the process of negotiating with them to do that, and obviously we're going to try to do it as cheaply as possible. But they did come to us. I guess they know what they were worried about is they had been doing it but now they're worried about liability issues if it's not done correctly. So we're going to have to start doing it.
So is this the area where they had the breach on the private levees?
No, this is the Mississippi River levee that's behind the plant.
This is the Mississippi River levee?
Yes, sir. No, this is not the Potato Ridge that's across from.
And this is for repairs, engineering, or what is it for?
Well, they drive their trucks up there, and it's all degraded, and we got ruts, and we need to put some more aggregate on the top.
So ConocoPhillips is not going to repair their own damage?
Essentially, yes, sir.
How do we get into this box?
Mr. Question? Mr. Question?
How do we get into this now when I believe that the industry that was on there always maintained the levee from their standpoint because they utilize it and drive on it and do all of those things?
I was told that it was contractual, our obligation. Now, how did that?
It is our obligation, but they had just assumed it since it was a controlled facility, and that way they didn't have to coordinate with us for our people to gain access to the levee, go and cut it, and there's Homeland Security requirements and all of this. You got to get permission to get on there, so it's a little bit of a cumbersome process, but it is our levee, and we are responsible for it. And so what this is an attempt to, sort of split the baby where they might do the work, but we'll provide for the materials or vice versa. And that was kind of the compromise we reached with them.
Then why we put up $100,000 then?
That's for the cost of the materials. It might not be that much.
Wait, excuse me, please. Councilman Black and Councilman Juno.
As Shane, you mentioned a good point, because I don't think we have anybody in the parish government that's going to meet the requirements of 33 CFR 105, which is the MPSA regulations for that particular facility. So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to even enter that particular property, because it's within that area.
I mean, that's one of the main problems.
Yeah, that's
that
why
we
when you
have
said
and
it,
why
I
we
mean, I don't
haven't
see
done
how
it
we
before.
can, make an agreement to maintain it when we can't even gain access to it.
See, but but the fact remains, it's a federal levy that we have taken control over, and as a levy district, we have an obligation to maintain it. So
Right.
we kind of got a conundrum that we got to figure out what
Right,
we're
I
going to do about
understand, but
it.
you're asking us to appropriate $100,000 arbitrarily to something we don't even know that we can even get to.
Well, if we can't get to it, we won't spend the money.
Well, can we decide if we can get to it, then make a decision if to appropriate the money?
If that's what y'all would like to do.
I'd like to know what changed from the time of the last 30 years to today that makes us all of a sudden have to.
I believe it was a corporate
Okay,
decision by
lieu of-
Phillips
In lieu of all of
66
the
and their
questions
changing
and with me
philosophy.
not being present at the meeting and not being able to give any answers, I'm going to defer because I was not present at the meeting.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
Mr. Juno has a question first, Ms. Sullivan.
Okay, well, I thank you for deferring it, because I worked there 20 years, and we never had the parish never took care of that. The companies always took care of that. Now, we went through about 15 companies. Now, ConocoPhillips, I think our president and our chairman should talk to the manager of ConocoPhillips
But I
and see what's
think
going on.
those folks was involved, but I'm not sure. But I'll just go ahead and defer to get some more answers.
Next item, please.
6V, an ordinance to amend the 2017 general fund manpower structure and 2017 operating expenditure budget, telecommunications department, and to authorize an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
No,
Ms. Sullivan,
the highway. Yes.
you got it?
I have changes.
She can offer with the changes.
I think I'm giving you 2 minutes.
Ms. Sargent, would you like me to read the changes?
You want Ms. Barber to read the changes, or you going to read it?
Yeah, Barbara had, just go ahead and read the changes.
On line 6, the line reads, been recommended to, we're going to eliminate create and. Then it continues to say fund 1 full-time, we're adding the word receptionist / PBX operator position. Then under section 1 on line 15, we're removing creating and. And then after the words funding 1, we're adding the word receptionist. On line 20, we're adding the word receptionist. On line 23, we're adding a dollar amount of $8,760 from general fund unreserved undesignated fund balance. Then we're adding a chart that shows salary and wages $4,620, FICA tax is $70, retirement $600, group health insurance $3,470.
With that, I offer.
Ms. Sargent offers, second?
I'll second it.
Second.
But I'd like to say something.
Yes.
If whoever's hired, I think they should work from 8 o'clock to 4:30, and they got to coordinate with the other girl that's on the answer, that answers the phone, that when they go to eat, that we have someone there answering it, either down the road or in that position.
That's right.
Now, I think we need it, because a lot of times you make a phone call, you can't get in touch with people, but they're going to have to work from 8 to 4:30. Thank you.
And I agree with you, Mr. Juno, because in the last 2 months, I think I've spoken more to the Homeland Security guy than I've spoken to a live body. It appears that Mr. Patrick Harvey has a recording on online, and that's who usually answers the phone. So I think this position is it's really needed.
Councilman Roussel?
Yes, and I agree that I would hope that we have a live body answering the phone during the business hours of 8 to 4:30 as well, something that I've been emphasizing for quite some time now. And I agree with Councilmember Juneau that when they take a break or when they are at lunch, that they have the other employee in that department to at least cover the phone, so we have someone answering the phone continuously between the hours of 8 and 4:30, even if they forward it to another voicemail, at least they have somebody answering, and I think it's incumbent upon the government to be able to answer the phone between the hours of 8 and 4:30.
Councilman Lepine?
I guess my only question is, y'all have one down here in Port Saukle. Will this girl be stationed in Belle Chase?
Yes.
Or, I mean, do we have a place where she's going or where she's going to be there? Is it? It could be a guy. Excuse me. But is it going to be an administration building, the council building? We don't know.
Well, I'm not sure with those answers yet, because you guys haven't made a move yet, and I think there are some other lingering issues with the administration and where they're going. So I'm not sure on that, but I do know we need someone in the Belle Chase area, someone that accessible to the public at all times.
I think it has to deal with the system, the communication system, wherever that is. That's where they would have to go. Because I think the only one right now, the system is designed is in the council office. Any other questions from table? Audience? Machine is open. Passes 9-0. Next, please.
Yeah.
Where you would like to defer, new business.
7B, update and presentation by District 7, Councilmember Trufant Salvant.
For the purpose of time, I defer.
C.
Update by administration on water compliance projects and loan application, Councilmember Roussel.
I believe we heard some of that discussion earlier today, so I'll pass over that until we get it done.
Deferred.
F.
Update on DOTD right-of-way grass cutting.
Yeah, I'd just like to see if the administration could give us an update on the contract with DOTD, if there's any.
Councilman Byrd, I've followed your advice. I agreed with you when we spoke back in February that DOTD, what they were offering was low. Now, I will say this: I do disagree a little bit in that, and that's why we put that ordinance up to rehire the 12 tractor drivers, because of the voice of the people and the public. I think the parish, with the manpower, would do a better job than DOTD, but that's where it stands right now.
So the answer is no. So the answer is no.
Correct. DOTD is doing that job.
I have one thing, Mr. Chairman, please. Please be mindful that we budgeted $90,000 for the DOTD contract, and so that's funding that we're going to have to appropriate to balance that, to offset that. Just wanted to make that known.
Next item, please.
G, discussion regarding overtime pay, Councilmember Lepine.
Do
you want to skip over that?
Councilman Lepine, you want to defer?
We did that one already. You
On you.
addressed that one already, didn't you?
Yeah.
Lepine.
Overtime pay, you want to defer? Deferred. Next item, H.
7H, discussion regarding resolution number 16-243, authorizing and directing the parish president to conduct an inventory of all buildings located in the government complex and to seek proposals for rentals and/or lease of any building which will not be used by PPG. Councilmember Roussel.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, we touched on this earlier, and as President Cormier mentioned, it's our responsibility to try to bring revenue to the table. However, we need the administration to cooperate and try to seek some proposals for the development of these buildings off of Edward Adair Boulevard. And so this is one instance of where last year we brought this to the table in an effort to raise revenue, and we're reviewing it one more time and asking the administration to move forward and try to put something together to do this. Thank you.
And as soon as I get a director of administration, I'll get them right on it.
That was part of the 20% I was agreeing with you with. Now I guess I can't agree with that now.
Yeah, only money of it, well.
Next item, please.
7I, discussion regarding any and all information on all contracts executed during the state of emergency issued for Hurricane Cindy, including the names of the contractors, the dates of the contract agreement, and the scope of work covered in each contract. Councilmember Lapine.
Mr. Cormier, with the email that you sent out about giving a 7-day notice, we had a question. My office contacted you 8 days ago with an email, and we sent them to the courier. So I would just like to know, do I have any documents or any contract or information with the contract that we signed on the emergency declaration?
Yes, as I stated earlier, we've got a contract with L&B Services. That's the Myrtle Grove thing. It's capped.
Okay. Can I get a copy of it?
Yes, and I had one yesterday when we met in the office when you came to pick up the keys. I didn't know. I asked you if you wanted anything else. I would have given it to you then.
Well, if I remembered, you didn't remember either, so.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Okay, but can I get all the contracts that were signed?
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Every one. Thank you. And Ms. Toops, for G, for further reference, it's going to be withdrawn, so I'm going to carry over again.
Next item, please.
J, discussion on the relocation of the administration, specifically the executive, directors, legal, and staff to Building 100 in accordance with previously passed council resolution, and discussion on current introduction regarding the relocation and building assignments of the Library Department, Water Department, and Buildings Department, as well as the adherence to the previously passed council resolution assigning office space to the Recreation Department and Civil Service Department. Councilmember Black.
All right, thank you. As you recall, I had two introductions today. One was to move let me start off by saying this. The council building, which is 203, should be ready. I think they're doing the fire marshal walkthrough on September 1st. It looks like that building will be ready for us to occupy hopefully the first week of September. And it looks like we'll have the first council meeting that's scheduled for Belchase there on the 14th of September. With that said, there's another wing that's available. I did a walkthrough with a couple council members as well as Director Giles. I did an introduction today to move the water department, which is on Main Street in a pretty small building, outdated building. Not too good for the public to go pay bills and whatnot and the employees to work. I did a resolution to move the water department from that building to the wing in Building 203. There's also some other space available, which currently the Library Department administration is occupying a wing in Building 100. I did a resolution to move the Library Department to Building 203 as well. Also, the Buildings Department, which is currently in Building 100, only has 2 personnel. They would like to be closer to their equipment, which is at the La Yaya building, formerly known as the La Yaya building. There's office space available. We did a walkthrough with Director Giles with that as well, to move them to Building 600. Building 600 is currently occupied by Civil Service. As you know, we had an ordinance to move Civil Service to Port Sulphur. I'm not sure where we're at in that movement process. We also had a resolution to move Recreation Department from their current location to office space within Building 600. This move won't affect, the Buildings Department move won't affect any of those other moves. So I talked to Director Giles. Hopefully these resolutions pass in 2 weeks where we can get the Library Department moved, the buildings department moved, the recreation department moved, and then obviously civil service moved to where they needed to be. That will complete that total move process. The council is going to move to 203. It's going to vacate totally building 100. The only people that would be remaining in building 100 is the Justice of the Peace in his office, and then the land department. I guess we're asking, or I'm asking, on behalf of my colleagues on the council, is what is the intention of the administration? As you know, the council passed a resolution a few months back to move the administration from Popich to Building 100. So we're going to be vacating that building in its entirety next month. We're basically asking what is the intentions are of the administration to adhere to that resolution to move you guys over to Building 100.
First of all, I want to commend you, Councilman Black, on fighting for your district and getting more things for your district. You did a good job summarizing that there's a lot in flux right now. We've got litigation ongoing. The district attorney still wants we're building a building for him, but he still wants, we'll see what happens vis-a-vis some of the other actions that have been taken. And I think legal, Mr. Barbie can comment on the status of the second suit that Mr. Barbie filed.
Let me ask the question while he's looking it up. You said you're building the DA's building, so you guys did decide to go ahead and move forward with 201, or?
No, there's, we won, District Attorney Ballet sued me on back in January 20th, on my 10th day in office. We defeated his injunction proceeding. On the mandamus, he did prevail on that issue. That issue is on appeal, but then because, as I stated publicly, parish government won on that issue, he filed a second lawsuit, more or less arguing some of the same things. And on that point, I'll let Mr. Barbie comment on the status of that.
Basically, Mr. Ballet filed another suit that alleges almost the exact same thing that was in his first suit, and that is the same issues that are up on appeal, that we owe him a building. We've answered that suit, and it's the first go-around was by a executory process because it's done under a quick time frame. This is an ordinary suit. We filed an answer. This is going to be, I suspect, a long, protracted, drawn-out affair. So,
all right, thank you, Mr. Barbie. But with all due respect,
to continue answering in further elaboration of your question, as you mentioned earlier, Title 33 and some of the other federal regulations. After Hurricane Katrina, we received the grant money for the EOC building, and that is the nerve center by federal regulations. That is located on Highway 23, and that is where not just, it is my opinion that to move from that position is would be a disservice to the people of this parish. One, because that is the nerve center for all emergency operations. Two, because in the event of an emergency, such as what we're seeing right now with Hurricane Harvey, to go onto a ground level floor would be a disservice to the people of the parish. That's my administration stance on that right now.
All right.
Hey, John.
I know we spent over $100,000 on a generator that had that building fully operational during a storm event. And we did, in that resolution, assign you office space as well in Popich. In case there is an event and you wanted to be at Popich, you'd have office space to operate out of. So I guess my simple question is, and I'll conclude it with that, we're moving a lot of other people. We have a multi-million-dollar facility, building, at the government complex that is, suited for you, the directors, legal. My point-blank question is, are you going to move those folks, to Building 100 when we vacate it? It's fully furnished as well.
And that's a legitimate question. I think it's not in the best interest for the parish president to be moved from the EOC building. But I would ask this, that pending all this, pending the ballet litigation, that we see exactly what, if anything, a judge does.
Okay, I don't think that the ballet litigation with the district attorney has anything to do with the move from Popich, from the administration, directors, and legal to 100. I really don't. I'm asking you, like we talked about olive branches, this council voted, I want to say I think it was unanimously, I'm not sure, but yeah, it was unanimously, to move you, the directors, the legal, to Building 100. I'm asking you to adhere to that resolution and move, be co-located with every other department that's back there. I mean, I have resolutions of different departments that are provided to the newspaper on who actually is back there: engineering, permits, GIS. I can go on and on of who's all back there. So I would just ask you to do that, so this council doesn't have to go and do a mandamus and go through more litigation. You're going to have an office space in Popich. We promised you that. It's in the resolution. So I'm just asking you to take another look at it and don't, use the DA's office issue as a reason. I don't see any correlation between those two.
And that's not the principal concern. The principal concern is that during these emergencies, especially during hurricane season, and I'd be more than glad to invite you, Councilman Black, and I'll make this extended invitation for the council members to attend these meetings, to see what goes on. This is where decisions get made. I was just asked a moment ago by a local resident, a member of PABI, about the decision-making process on closure of a gate. And anyone who has participated in this process, like I did during Tropical Storm Cindy, knows that at the EOC, the decisions get made, because that's where we get the data from the National Weather Service, GOSEP, all of our directors. Everyone has to be present there. So if I certainly would invite you to attend one of these meetings. Outside of hurricane season, you make a fair argument, but during hurricane season, and this is where the rubber hits the road, it would be less than prudent to be on a ground floor level and to be away from the nerve center as mandated by the federal law. So all of the directors, everyone has to be there, and you'll see engineering, like you mentioned, Ken Dugai and everyone coming over there. Now that takes time.
And that proves my point. So Ken, all of those folks have to come. The council has to come from the government complex, and it's only a couple times during an event. It's not, and believe me, I've been through events, so I do get your point that you want to be close to that so you can go to your office back and forth. That's why we're giving you office space in Popich. But for the other 355 days a year, we think it's better served, this council is better served for you to be on that complex. So, I'll rest it at that. I just wanted to see where you at with it, because, we have these resolutions coming up and we're going to move, and I just don't want that to be this big old fight again with the council and the administration over moving to a building, because it's a multi-million-dollar building, fully furnished. It was built for you and your staff. And I'd hate to see it.
Unlike District Attorney Ballet, I didn't plan the specs on that building.
I won't even comment. So I don't have anything else.
Okay, I just would like to add, I'm not sure who heading up the assignment of the building back there in in the complex. But I would just like to indicate that my office and perhaps John's office would like an office space in that building. If I'm not sure how many offices is available after the council members and these folks that was just listed there would take up some space. But I would like to make that comment that District 7 would like office space in there, and John also would like office space, because I mean that mean when there's business that I need to handle on the northern end of the parish, I would have a location in the building that I would not have to be transporting back and forth, and I can set up shop there also. So I just want whomever, I don't know who's the person I need to be speaking to, but.
So, Ms. Sullivan, we do actually have space available for traveling council members in that building. Matter of fact, I think we even have furniture that we're going to be moving to furnish it.
Okay. I just wanted to make that note. Okay.
Okay, read number 8.
Approval of the minutes from the August 7, 2017 mid-year budget review and the August 10th, 2017 meetings.
Okay, let's have a vote. Second, okay. I'm sorry. I'm learning. Okay. Okay, now we're going to have to adjourn. We're going to have to vote on the adjournment.
Mr. Chair,
You make a motion, you always do.
if I may make one quick clarification. When you call the 934-6000 switchboard number, it is not forwarded to EOC or Patrick or 911 or any of them for over a year. So it actually goes to an auto attendant recording, and that's my charming voice.
The point that
Just for clarification, I was just clarifying where it goes.
The point that I was making, though, is that when you dial 297-5000, you get no one to answer.
297-5000 is forwarded to 934-6000. I'm not saying about anybody answering or not. I'm saying in the event that there is no answer, it goes to an auto attendant recording.
And my follow-up to be that it shouldn't be a voice. It should be a live body.
And many times.
I'm not disputing that. I just wanted to
Many
clarify.
times you get no answer, period.
How many we got?
No, I'm
Everybody
saying it's
voted?
supposed to go to a recording.
Everyone voted? All right. All right. Meeting's adjourned. 7:23.